is another Tuesday. We have a brand new episode for you. Myself and Joe Brown. Who the fuck is Joe Brown? Well, he's my co-host, and he's on the other side of the screen right here. We have an amazing show for you guys. A little birdie told me that some fishy shit went down in Central Mass, and I'm interested to hear all about this. Plus, we got to give a big birthday shout out to the one and only Senor Papa Roast Beef. My dad turned 70 today. Holy shit. That's old. We're going to talk all about the fun that we've got planned for this year for doing some fishing with the old man. Plus, we have some, unfortunately, kind of a down note for the Springfield Sportsman Show. We'll talk about all that. We got all kinds of good stuff, including Just the Tip, some Gear of the Week. We got an FTG out of Rhode Island today that has to do with last week's episode, and it's going to ruffle some feathers. And that's truthfully putting it lightly. Guys, we will see you in just a bit. Don't go too far. More Jigs and Bigs goodness coming up right after this. So I know we have a bunch of jig heads in here right now. Like John Hagens has already popped in and said hello, which is awesome. I love the fact that we got some jig heads in here. But I'm gonna give a little bit of a taste of all of the mess that is Jigs and Bigs to all of our listeners. You know, a lot of people came up to us, Joe, at the Columbus Expo, and they were like, "Oh yeah, you guys are such a professional podcast and everything." Let me tell you about the fucking shit show that's been going on with my technical abilities lately. So it must have been during, it was either when I was editing the podcast for last week or when, I don't know if I powered my laptop down, or maybe when I slept that night, or when I ran Dave to the airport. Somewhere within that time before I left the house, my laptop, my DJ software that I use to make a fucking living with, did an update. And that's not weird. Oftentimes there will be an update that's done, this was either a major one, like something went down. Like I had to go and find all of these folders and like rediscover them. And like I was looking, I did an event for HP Hood. Last Tuesday, and we had an amazing time. But I was like, trying to find like my samples for my game show and stuff, and I'm like, where the hell is everything? It was just bizarre. Like I opened it that day, and it was brand new. So that said, I was looking for the cue button for the outro, and it's gone. Like it's just the hot cue that I set for the end of that music is gone. So I'm like, this part on the wave looks good, and I tapped that, and it was just like, okay, fine, we're gonna wrap it there. So that's it's this level of horse shit that you that you can expect from Jigs and Bigs. We dress up real nice, but wow. Joe, how are you, buddy?
Total mess.
It's total mess.
I'm awesome, dude. I am awesome. I am fucking dealing with, as you are, with the bullshit weather we've had here.
Awful.
My driveway, which kind of goes uphill, flattens, goes downhill, looks like a friggin' Olympic luge course right now. That's a mess. And dude, you can't find ice melt anywhere. It's sold out everywhere.
And it's unfortunately
I had to do a crack deal to get a bag.
With this kind of shit, though, you need some type of salt. Like, you need some kind of ice melt somewhere to be put down.
You have to.
Because let's set the stage for everybody. So we had snow that was, off and on, like a couple inches here and there. There was really, for most of this winter, it hasn't been too bad. So the accumulation hasn't been crazy. But the last couple of weeks, there's been like this layer of like just slush. Over I would say since like the last week, and we've had some pretty high temps this week, so it kind of sucked. Well, we got about I guess we got about 6 or 7 inches here.
Same.
So I mean, there was some decent snow, but then it changed over to rain, and the timing of the storm was ridiculous because it was like a good 12 or 13 or plus hours of just constant precip. So what you have is you have all of this slush with a layer of snow and then this layer of ice on top from the freezing rain. And it is an absolute shitstorm. So like we only today got our street plowed and we're right next to the fucking hospital. I can't believe that shit. I can't believe that shit. So we got that also. I know you're struggling.
Oh yeah. Yeah. It just. Oh, excuse me. Oh, new whiskey drink, you know.
But, I hear you.
No, I wish I didn't snow blow yesterday. I wish I allowed that ice like layer to be on top of the snow and then just kind of snow blow it all of it deal. At once.
Yeah.
But so I snow blowed and then it like rained and got kind of slushy and then it froze overnight and now I'm fucked. Like it's an absolute goddamn mess.
Yeah, it's terrible. It's ridiculous. You know, and of course, like all of the people on the street, like we all did the right thing and we all shoveled our sidewalks and all that stuff. And then the plows come by today and it's just like all just this mess. It's like just plates of ice all over the place. I parked in the street to make my wife's life a little bit easier. I was like, you park in the driveway. You've got to get up in the morning and go do your thing. It's all good. I pulled up on the side of the street. Like my truck is at this angle like that. I opened the door and just like rolled out. I was like, okay, fine. It's fine. Kind of hilarious.
So the boys go out. This is my so I gave Bobby a little preview. I told him that a rescue mission had to happen here at the house. So the boys go outside at some point to like do the birds and stuff. And the way we have our chicken coop with all of our birds, like our chicken coop is like a big shed. And then we have those like two of those huge covered like kennels, chain link kennels that are put together as like their outside area. Dude, they come running in. They're like, the coop collapsed. The coop collapsed.
Oh.
Dude, I go out there. The ice and snow completely collapsed one of those like outside like kennels, and they go running. And dude, one of the ducks is stuck underneath it.
Oh
like,
no!
And I mean, this is heavy ass fucking snow and stuff. And yeah, we had to jump up there, grab the shovel, quick rescue mission to get the duck. Got the duck out. It's good to go. But that whole thing is completely destroyed. So I don't know what the fuck to do now because they like can't really come outside now. So
so what are they just like living in the garage or what's?
No, the coop itself is fine. It was just like that outside run area.
Gotcha.
Yeah, and they were outside at the time it happened.
That sucks.
Yeah, so it's just I just want to get rid of those fucking things. So if anyone wants any, turkeys, chickens, some ducks, you let me know. You hit me up on the Insta or the Face page or the TikTok, American Vet Fishing, and I will hook you up.
There you go.
I'm done.
Look at that. No more Farmer Brown.
You can't eat the turkeys, though. That's got to be the deal. Those are my dudes.
Fair enough. Their lives go on in memory of Marcus. You know what I'm saying?
That's right. Samuel L. Jackson you can't eat him. Can't eat him.
Nope. No turkey. Have a tofurkey in this year in protest.
Yeah, exactly.
It's a mess. So Vidal had already chimed in with this. He says, love the hat. And I wore this hat intentionally today because Ben Milliken dropped a video, a little truth bomb. Did you see this, Joe?
When?
Last night.
I haven't seen it then.
He did some talking about the situation. Now, it's not, remember, like I had reached out to him to ask about, like, hey, we'd love to have you on. And he was like, listen,
sure,
I want to talk about this. And I can't go on a podcast and not talk about it. Like, it's going to be the thing. So I have to kind of avoid this stuff until all the legal stuff is over. But it's taking forever. And he goes in the video that he wanted to do this primarily for, the followers that follow his content. Plus also a lot of the folks that and from Bassmaster that things are going to kick off for him soon, and he's going to be on the Elite Tour, and he's like, people are going to have questions, so I want to have this as a way for people to get all the information, the absolute truth directly from me that's involved. So let's talk about it. I think that there is some bullshittery going on. Some fuckery, if you will, not on Ben's end of things. I mean, I want to say with the authorities.
Whose end?
I want to say the authorities, maybe even Sherlunker. To be honest, it sounds really, really fucking sketchy. So,
oh, now I gotta watch it.
Yeah, I would recommend it. I don't want to like chime in or anything, but I'm going to tell you, if you guys are curious about the situation with Milliken and his arrest late last year and the whole situation, he does a really great job. And, you can tell he gets a little bit fired up on occasion talking about shit. And there's some shit that I thought was kind of fucked up. I really do. In fact, the conspiracy theorist part of me thinks that maybe it's possible all of this shit has gone down so that Sherlunker could fucking sell the fish at a profit. It's one of the things he talks about is how like there's a market for those fish with those genetics. That there's a value there. And part of the process is signing over your rights to the state of Texas for that fish because it's technically property, Yeah,
that's weird because you and I have both kind of done research into like kind of the whole process with fisheries and genetics and all that shit, and like it takes more than just that, just a big fish genetics, So, but whatever.
But it's very interesting the way that it all kind of played out, and it's really fucked up, like. Stuff that I didn't know about, like
tonight after we get done.
I think, you should. I think you'll get a lot. It really adds a lot of clarity. So Ben, excellent job.
Okay.
I do. I think there's some fuckery either at the law enforcement level or at maybe even it's something that sounds weird with Sherlunker alone, because like there's something about it that just seems off to me, and I'm like, okay, so who's got what to gain from him? And
yeah,
it's kind of shitty.
Yeah, the whole thing. I mean, and we won't get into. We've talked about it a million times, but the whole thing was just kind of odd to me because Texas is so like pro outdoorsman, and like for them to like do it the way they did was kind of weird. Like obviously, if he's out poaching, do it. He's but like
for sure.
It was such. We've talked about it on the show. It was such a mistake that we've all made. You know what I mean?
And it's
whatever.
Bizarre. It's such a huge overreach to use the charge of committing fraud in a tournament, knowingly committing fraud in a tournament for what that was. Because the way he explains it, it's like in order to be eligible to win the prize that they keep talking about, which was like, it was a cash and a tackle prize, which he explains he dropped off to them was like $5,000 and 6 cents tackle. Like he actually was doing this to help Sherlunker.
He was the donation. That's so fucked up.
So he
said he would never take the money. Like a lot of those
he had to be at the
like,
dinner to go, and he wasn't available to go to the dinner, so he was ineligible of winning. So there's a huge stretch right there. It's messed up.
Yeah, whatever. Hopefully it all gets squared. I can't wait to get the season finale or the series finale.
The series finale, exactly.
For him,
it's gonna come out and it's gonna be like a big ABC 2020 thing. It'll be huge.
Yeah, no shit, dude. 60 minutes. Yeah.
Oh man,
he'll be one of Trump's pardons at the end of the term.
Oh god. So yeah, it was. I saw the video pop up on my recommended page, and I was like, oh, I gotta check this out. I was like, that's brand new, and I saw it was like posted 16 minutes ago, and I was like, motherfucker. So I raced home to watch it. I finished trivia, and then I got back. Yeah, I was like, oh, this is interesting, man. You could tell he was fired up about it, rightfully so, because it's just bizarre, man.
Course.
Bizarre, dude.
Of course.
So yeah, I highly recommend you guys go ahead, make up your own mind. I do feel like there is fuckery at foot, and somebody's out to get him for one reason or another. You might not love the guy, but I feel like he is generally a straight shooter overall. He goes. Fidel says, I bet he won't forget to renew his license ever again. Oh yeah, he actually goes over that in pretty good detail. In fact, it's kind of weird. Because Texas is one of those states that the renewal date isn't like at the first of the year. You know what I mean? Like, I think it's in September.
It's like a year from like, oh, that's weird.
Yeah, it's bizarre. Like for whatever reason, that's how they run it. And I could have sworn. And the thing is like he paid the ticket it has nothing to do with the license. You know?
Yeah, no, it's that fraud.
Yeah,
bullshit.
It's the fraud thing. And that's what it is. I'm like, that is insane. So he paid the ticket for it. Like, he did all that. And he's like, yeah, obviously, you know, he's like, I had to have 14 licenses last year. Like, that's crazy. So it was just interesting to see how it all went down. Yeah, you go to all of these spots and it's like, you know, if you're fishing this area, you're going to get the license for the year, obviously, you know? And I should say, I mean,
even just for us,
he in there, he mentioned he was like, part of the process is you sign a waiver that basically releases your ownership of that fish to the state because it's property. There's value there, you know, so you're allowing them to do whatever. John Hagan says maybe selling fry overseas. You know, I'm just, this is where I'm coming from it. I know that local office does not pay that much, even at like the state level, realistically. So like the potential of seeing a money-making opportunity of just selling this fish to a private individual that maybe wants to breed them for their own stocking program or some shit or whatever, you know, I'm just saying it could be there.
Especially in Texas, there's a ton of properties that just have like small private ponds. Private, like they have their own private ponds. So yeah, I could definitely see that.
And you know what's funny is in the video, you'll see it for yourself. This is the last thing I'll end on. The reason why he had never entered a fish into the ShareLunker program before is because when you do it, they post a press release with the information of the lake. And he goes, I think it was Zark 16, when they went through that, like that lake that next year was a different fishery entirely because the increased pressure. People know that there's a giant in there and they're just like, well, there's giants in here. We got to go. Pro tip.
There's giants in almost every body of water.
You just have to catch them.
We're going to talk about that too. We're going to talk about that today too.
Oh yeah. And I mean, it's probably less like that here than it is further down south.
Sure. Yeah. Those giant bodies of water.
Those big fish live in bodies of water you would never ever expect. So just keep fishing wherever you're fishing. And if you either put the time in and learn it or you luck the fuck out, you're going to eventually catch one way or the other. So it was just, I thought it was very, very interesting. As far as like fishy shit that I've done this week, it was a lot of work this week primarily. I do want to lead with this, folks. I know like we've had, coming off the heels of the Columbus Expo, which, what an amazing week. Like absolutely amazing. I know like by Sunday I was like, all right, I think I'm a little expoed out. On the drive back, I was like, I kind of like my life doing expos and stuff. So a lot of people have reached out, actually, even on that drive, asking about, hey, are you guys coming to the Philly show? Are you going to do this show? Are you going to go? You should get a booth here. Let me explain something, guys. It does not serve Jigs and Bigs at all to go to an expo and rent booth space. And I'm not whining about these things being expensive. They have to be that way because they're not free to begin with. If you are a promoter doing a show and you show up, whatever that show might be, you're immediately in the red. All of those spaces have a value, and you've at least got to get that what they're worth. So it's not about like, oh, these things are free and it's a money grab. No, it's like that money's got to come from somewhere. Who's going to pay it?
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, we're not selling a product.
No, and that's the other thing too. It's like we don't sell a product. So a lot of people were like, "Oh yeah, but you could do merch, you could do this," and I'm like, "There's a reason why Jigs and Bigs doesn't do our own apparel. Like we do it drop shipped. And I know that's not everybody's favorite thing, but if you're a fan of the show, you buy the stickers and the hats and the shirts and the hoodies, and we appreciate that stuff. And I was talking with Zach, and he was like, dude, he goes, you should do some merch next time so you can have something to turn over. And I did the math on one of the booths of like a handful of the shows. I just came up with a number, and I did the math. You know how many hats we would have to sell to not only make up for the money put into the hats, but also the booth there?
140.
Hundreds.
Okay.
Like it's a little bit closer to 300, like is what we would have to make without making the price so crazy that people are like, I'm not spending that much on a hat. You know, like you can only make the profit so much. So that way it's at least, you know, paying the bills or whatever, plus the time lost and everything. So I would love, believe me, I wish I was independently wealthy. My OnlyFans was just popping off enough where I could go and do all of this shit and show up at every single show because I fucking love it. I really do. The reality of it is, at the New England show, we were there working for JCS and Hanks Marine, specifically in Hanks Marine's boat. You know, I was there talking to folks and sending them over to these booths, asking questions. I think I sold the boat that I was in. I feel pretty confident about that. Dude is very hyped up on it. So like when we're there, like that's the thing. Like we'll talk about the shows and we'll promote them and everything when we're making an appearance there. And we love seeing everybody who's there, but we could just go and buy a ticket and do a walkthrough and visit and hang out with everybody. The idea of having a booth is just so counterproductive. So like you're probably never going to see us in East Tennessee unless I win the lottery, you know, and I can afford to just do whatever. You know, this show doesn't make that much money. In fact, recently some numbers came out, and this is a couple of times these numbers have come out from a very popular fishing podcast that we adore over here. And I will tell you, if you're using that as the benchmark and they're over here, we're over here, and we have reach, you know what I'm saying? And it's like, that's not a, you know, that's not me whining at all. It's just me being completely upfront. So regarding the Springfield show this year, I miscalculated on my calendar, unfortunately, and we won't be doing a booth this year. That was the one show where we kind of made an exception for it. So we will not be at the Springfield Sportsman Show this year, but I highly urge everybody to go and check it out. There's a lot of really good stuff going on. And, you know, head on over. It's happening this weekend, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Starts the 21st, 22nd, and the 23rd. Go and check it out. It'll be awesome. But, yeah, unfortunately, we're not going to be able to be involved because I'm a moron and I thought it started on the 28th. I got to get a little bit better with this. So that's pretty much what we got. What do we got? John Hagan says, he's talking about the fishing license. He says, Ohio does that. You renew your license the date you purchase it the following year. New York is the same way. Yeah. So like my New York license is still good until October. And then he says, I still got to go through everything I bought. I spent almost $50 at the Dark Horse booth alone. Yes, John. And that was money well spent going to support local business. And we appreciate and thank you. As far as other fishy stuff for me, I was bringing my daughter to school. It was Wednesday or Thursday. And one of the little rivers that we cross over a couple of times on our route there, I noticed has some open water. And like, it's just a tiny little stream. I was really it doesn't now. I'm almost positive. Right. Almost positive it doesn't now. But I was getting there was a little part of my brain that was like,
maybe in the next few weeks.
And I realized today it's officially mid. What is it? We're officially into the second half of February right now, guys. We're like 5 weeks away from official spring on the calendar. You know.
Yes.
We're on the upswing now. You know, I feel like this is good. I'm hoping that things will be back in place soon. And, you know, I think as far as fishy shit for myself, that was pretty much it. I did get a new video out this week, the Expo vlog. And thanks to everybody that went and gave it a view. Left some comments. I appreciate that. That is pretty awesome. Video came out really good. You did a great job with your video too, Joe. I watched that sucker.
Thank you.
And I'm psyched that you like using that software for editing. Isn't it freaking great?
I really, dude, it's so user friendly. I love it. Like it was just like seamless editing. The program I was using before, I just sat there and like scratched my head the whole time. So I was like, I don't know what the fuck I'm doing with this one. And you know, that one that you put me onto, it was just so seamless. It was it took like no time at all to like get it obviously editing still takes some time, but it was far less time than it had been before.
One of the things that I really like about using that program specifically is you can edit the way I like to edit most. And when inspiration strikes, you can go and tweak things and, and make some shit happen. It's pretty slick. Have you fucked around with compound clips or anything like that?
I haven't yet.
Dude. Once you get something that's locked down, you make it a compound clip and you can move things. Oh, dude. It is so helpful.
Oh, that's sick. Okay.
Yeah, it's
okay. All right.
There's some cool stuff. I was like, yeah, this is nice. And that's how I like to edit. I like to sit down, maybe pop an edible, and like kind of get in my zone and let the inner Martin Scorsese kind of come to be.
Yeah, hell yeah.
It's pretty cool. We're supposed to start getting some better weather. Toward the end of this week, like high temps are supposed to be getting into the low 40s, and the lows are still, sometimes dipping into the high 20s, which is great, fine. Sure. But it's on, like I said, the upswing. John Higgins even says, he's like, one more polar vortex to get through this week, another storm coming Wednesday, Thursday. I was looking at Wednesday, Thursday. We were talking about that today when I was over at my folks celebrating my dad's birthday. And we were talking about how, they're forecasting all of this snow to come Thursday. And now it seems like it's dropping off, at least for us. Like it's not, the projection isn't.
I noticed it looked like it went away.
I'll take it, man. I'll take it. I'm so done with it. I was going into trivia last night, walking in the front door. It's a nice couple coming down from having a wonderful dinner. And they walk by and they're like, oh, how you doing? I was like, I'll tell you, I'm about sick of this shit. And they're just like, oh my God, you and me both. It was like we bonded in that moment. I do want to share. So I went over to my folks for my father's birthday today, and this was supposed to go down on Saturday. So like recording today would have been a snap, and things got kind of jumbled around. But we're here, we're making it happen, and so I get there, and my dad's sisters are coming in, and like some of my cousins and their kids, and it's a whole big thing. And we just did like pizza, and I brought some wings. I brought some wings from a local pizza joint near here. Holyoke Pizza makes the best goddamn garlic wings on the planet. I'm just going to say that. So I picked up like a huge sheet pan of them, and I was just like, yeah, we'll just do this. I'll bring that over. It'll be great. They went over huge. My mom had ordered some pizzas from a place around the corner. The only spot in town that did pizza, but they don't deliver. And everybody else was closed. I was like, really? That's kind of crazy. On a holiday, like I'm surprised that anybody else would be closed.
Yeah, there's a ton of businesses around here, like eateries and stuff, closed yesterday and today.
Well, I'm like, all right. So I go and I pick up the pizza, and my dad's like, hey, stop by the Packy and grab like a 30 rack of some kind of light beer, something like that. So two things. First off, I picked Pabst Blue Ribbon. I picked PBR. It's a staple. It's out of this world. I know my dad loves PBR. But you know who really likes PBR now? And it blew my mind? My mom loves PBR.
Interesting.
And she drinks it like a 70-year-old man. She drinks it in a glass with a little shake of salt and a little fresh cracked pepper. Have you ever done that?
Really?
Yeah.
No.
When I was a kid, my father used to do salt and pepper as beer every so often. And I was just like, yeah.
No shit.
Yeah. You season the meal. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So my mom.
It's funny because like, go ahead.
I was going to say, I'm sitting next to my mom and I was like, who the hell are you? I'm like, what is this? And like she never drank beer, and then she started drinking like Blue Moons and like some wheat beers, some Heffies and stuff. And I was like, all right, cool. Yeah. Like she's into this, awesome. Now all of a sudden she's like crushing PBRs and seasoning them beforehand, and I'm like,
hell yeah.
Where have you been? My God, this is crazy. I'm telling you, we're going up to Winnipesaukee for a week this summer. It's their 50th wedding anniversary. So we're going up to Winnie. We got my sister and I rented a house right on the lake. I'm going to have the boat right in the slip right there. It's going to be so nice. And actually, I'm going to be fishing there's another lake right near Winnisquam. And it's a little bit deeper, a little bit clearer water, and less bullshit as far as wreck boats. So we're going to take the boat over there as well. But it's going to be an interesting week. It's going to be a crazy week.
That's funny. You tell me about your mom. So back when my mom was alive, every once in a while we'd hit. My mom wasn't a drinker. Like very rarely did I see my mom drink. But every once in a while when we like went out, they'd be like, "Okay, what would you like to drink?" And she'd be like, "Oh, I'll take a Bud bottle."
Whoa!
I just like, whoa.
That's like deep end, what? Man.
Yeah,
that's nuts.
Yeah, dude. That's yeah. So I'd be like, oh, like, because normally she'd be like, oh, her thing was Bahama Mamas. She like if she ever drank, it'd be like
something
a Bahama
fruity.
Mama.
Yeah,
she'd like those.
Yep.
But then every once in a while, she'd be like, yeah, I'll take a Bud bottle. Like she didn't say Bud. She's like Bud. Just a Bud bottle. Yeah. I'd be like, Jesus Christ.
Bud bottle. She reaches in her pocket, takes out some unfiltered Camels, and she's like, yeah.
Let's have it all.
Yep. Gets it out of her Marlboro labeled purse that she got from getting her points. Turn her points in.
Oh my God. Oh
God,
Jesus.
That was funny shit.
Oh, so they're going to Florida this Wednesday. And this is wild. I don't know why, but I am picking them up from their house to drive them to the town over to drop them off at my mother's friend's house, who is driving them to the airport. Now, the distance from their house to my house is halfway to the airport. You know what I mean?
Maybe they're gonna like maybe they want to like blaze up on the ride, but they don't want you.
I don't know. They want to fucking. I'm like, I'm all right with that. And then what's crazy is my sister and I have to somehow figure out a time for one of us to drive their car down to the airport and the other one to follow, so that we can park their car in one of these like park and ride lots or something like that.
Yeah.
I'm like.
There's a lot of logistics going on there.
There's a lot of planning happening.
For a trip to Florida.
You want to know how much planning and logistics there are?
I have to put a back seat in my 4Runner.
I took them out. I'm like, I haven't fucking had these seats up in forever. I'm taking them out. So I got to put one back in. I'm like, okay. Like, all right. Oh God. I'm like, holy shit. It's like I'm the stoner of the family. I'm like,
are you sure I'm the guy to fucking manage this?
Right. You
like
trust
somebody's making mistakes. Somebody's setting me up to fail. So I have notes on everything. I'm like, don't forget. I told him tonight, I was like, I don't know what time you guys need to be in Ludlow, but text me. All right, let me know a time so I can set 1,000 alarms to be up and out the door.
I mean, knowing you for as long as I have now, and like you telling me about your sister and stuff, she sounds way more trustworthy, Bobby. I'm just going to be honest.
And she lives with them. Like they live in her house. So I'm assuming that she's got to work or something like that, and like
that's what she's like. Oh no, Bobby, she's got to work. She has a real job. Like
that's exactly
you need to come pick us up.
Oh God,
that's like Meg's parents. I kind of because she works remote from home, they think like she doesn't have a real job.
Oh, of course, yeah. That's it's amazing, isn't it? It's amazing. Oh God.
Oh, boomers.
So yeah, that's all I got for fishy shit this week. I'm hoping to get that ramped up soon. But Joe, you had a different kind of week, man.
Bobby, I had a fishy week. A fishy day. I had a fishy day.
It's amazing.
So it was like the normal get home and recover from Columbus, as we had to, because both everyone needs to go check out both the Jigs and Bigs and the American Vet Fishing vlogs of Columbus Fishing Expo, so you kind of see what kind of fuckery we had to recover from. And so there was that. And then I worked the normal like work bullshit. And then this weekend, what was it? It was, God, I'm all fucked up because today's Monday. So Saturday, I went ice fishing.
That's amazing.
I went ice fishing.
That's awesome.
And I know I talk so much shit about ice fishing. I do, and I've even like posted about it. My dog's in front of me right now, running in his sleep. It's kind of funny. I wish I could show you, but anyway, 110-pound dog just running in his sleep on his side right now. But no, so Dan, Dan Griffin calls me. He's like, we're going ice fishing. I'm like, all right.
Sweet.
I was like, let's fucking do it. He's like, nothing crazy early. I was like, perfect.
That's the best.
So I get all my shit together the night before. I realized a bunch of my shit's fucked up, but I still was like, whatever. It's just need a hook and line.
Yeah.
So, but the auger that I haven't run in 3 years, dude, the battery, I'd never charge it. Still full. Like I figured that battery on that Ion would have depleted over the last couple of years.
Yeah, of course.
Nope. Not at all. Not at all. Nope.
That's
still
a testament to
100%
that
battery. It was awesome. Yeah. Yep. So shout out to Ion for that. But yeah. So I took the twins, right?
Okay.
And and of course I took the twins and Draco's first ice fishing outing. And I could take him, for those of you who don't, I have 2 German Shepherds. I have Draco, who's a 110-pound teddy bear, and then I have Ice, who's the 75-pound working line absolute maniac.
Yep.
She stayed home.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
So Draco's he's the kind of dog I don't have to put on a leash or anything.
That's
you know what I mean?
awesome.
So I was like, let's bring him. So he had a blast, and we go out there, and the fear I had was what we've talked about, like when I ice fished when I was a kid with my dad. I was like, oh my God, I'm going to be doing all the fucking work.
Yep.
I was like, this day is going to suck. And we've talked about it. He's the fisherman. He's the one that loves the fishing. Jackson just wants to go because he had no interest in really helping me, anything like that.
Yep.
But Jeremiah, dude, helped me the entire, he was right there, with everything. Oh yeah. He was phenomenal. Helping me in asking questions hey, why? Because me in my head, I'm just all right, grab the sounder, get to depth, put the button up, but he's like, well, no, why'd you do that? Okay, tell me how you do this and everything.
That's awesome.
And so, which was great. So before we even get on the ice, so it was me, Dan Griffin, his 2 boys, his wife, and then we met our friend Dale out there that I went to high school with. He has his son Hunter. Hunter is also another, this kid is just obsessed with hunting, fishing. He catches, it was, I believe, 6 pounds, 12 ounces, as we're unloading our trucks. And Bobby, let me tell you, I'm going to shoot you this pond. You have to take your kayak onto this pond. I don't have one anymore.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
I need someone to go out and fish this pond. It is so small. It is tiny. Really? Tiny. And I didn't watch it. He caught it as we're unloading, but the 612, just under 5. It was like a 414. And then Dan caught that. I think Dan's was 514.
That's a banner day in Western Mass. Oh my God.
Yeah. Ice? So, yeah, through the ice, through Central Mass. I'm not sorry. So I know I would love to give everyone here this pond. I can't do it. Sorry.
Yeah, no.
I'm gonna hook Bobby up because he's my dude, and I need someone to go hit this with a kayak. But dude, it was unreal. So I didn't get any fish like that. We were catching setting up the tip ups. We weren't drinking or anything. It wasn't ice tricking, but we were just I don't see Dale very often.
Yep.
So me, him, and Dan, just Jen, just chatting up, just having a great. Dan's dad showed up. We're just having a great conversation. It was fun. I have to say, I know I give ice fishing a lot of shit. We had a very good time.
It's not that it's not fun. It's just a lot of work.
It is, and so I'm going through my I just grabbed literally my 2 bins. I know is my ice fishing shit from whatever. So Jeremiah opens one and he pulls out my Vexilar flasher that I forgot I even had. And dude, yep. And he jig sticks and he's like, and he's like, hey, how do I use this? And in my mind, I'm like, fuck, dude, I don't remember.
Don't even remember. But exactly.
Hunter, Dale's son, has the same exact one, and he's dialed in on it. So he came and was showing Jeremiah, hey, this is what you gotta do, the settings, Next thing you know, Jeremiah's friggin' just plucking out crappie, dude, with that Vexilar or that flasher. It was awesome. He's telling me, hey, he's like, all right, there's a lure. I'm like, okay, because I never really fucking used it. It was just something I acquired when I owned the shop. You know what I mean? But he's like, oh, so he's like showing me, he's like, okay, this is my lure. He's like, I was like, okay. He's like, you see the red flag. He's like, all right, there's a fish coming up to it right now. And the next thing he was like, boink, I'm like, this is fucking awesome.
Good for him, dude. That's awesome.
Yeah. So, dude, I caught a dink pickerel. You know what I mean? I think I had one flag or two. No, we had a couple, but I caught one pickerel. They caught a couple like whatever, like small shit. But but then he was bringing up those crappie. But dude, it was a good, and we were only out there a few hours. Like we weren't out there long.
Yeah.
But we had a good time, dude. But just see what blew my mind is seeing. So my dad's girlfriend's mom has a house on this pond.
Oh, all right. Okay. Nice.
I had been there before and I was like, oh, this place, like you could tell this place, like it's just trash. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. It is not trash because it looked a lot more shallow than it is.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah.
Hidden
and
gem.
It is not.
Really?
So yeah, so I even got a little spot that you could probably park and launch there, Bobby. I got a little in there, but
that's beautiful.
Yeah. So it was kind of crazy. I was just to see that quality of fish, and if you guys want to see this fish, these fish that were caught. I don't have them on my socials, but I know Dan Griffin's public. So if you look at D Griffin 193 on Instagram, so D as in Dan Griffin 193, you can actually, his first thing up there right now, you can see these two fish that were caught on this little ass pond. I mean, Bobby, this thing's maybe like 25 acres. Like I'm telling you, it's tiny, dude. And it's got a couple houses on it, but they're not like, it's not anywhere you can put like a boat in or anything like that. Like maybe a rowboat or a kayak. Like that's all. Yeah, that's all you can ever put in there.
Sure.
It's too small to put anything else in there. But yeah, so go check out those fish. It was absolutely insane. But what that did, seeing those fish, Bobby, what that did for me is just, it didn't give me the itch to go ice fishing, which, I did enjoy it. And I think I kind of told and promised Jeremiah, like, I promise we will go out more. Cause I have sucked because I thought that I just don't like it that much. I haven't really brought him. Yep. So I promised him we would go more. But it just gave me the itch for the open water, man. It gave me the itch for the open water.
Oh, for sure, dude.
And, it was just, yeah. So yeah, that was my fishy weekend. We did that. And actually Jeremiah comes up to me, yesterday. He goes, hey, he's like, what are your thoughts on doing like a late night ice fishing send? I'm like, I was like, that actually sounds pretty fun. I'm not going to lie. But like but it was just like with the rain didn't stop when we thought, and the wind just started howling. I was like, dude, I was like, the weather's just not there. I was like, but if that's something you want to do, I was like, let me grab like the little glow sticks for the tip ups and shit like that. I was like, I'll grab my dad's fucking ice hut thing that he has. I was like, and we'll go do it,
dude.
And he's like, fuck yeah.
I am telling you. So here's the thing. Like, if I were going to get into ice fishing, and really do it, it would be hardcore, because my favorite kind of like ice fishing content that I've ever seen has been like Becca and Todd Grubb, and like when they're out doing like this ice camping, they go and they set up. Whatever time they get out there, They set up all the provisions. Everything's all there, and they're in that shanty. They might have a few tip ups outside around the shanty that they're checking here and there.
Right.
But they're in there and they're jigging hard, and they're just going for it.
Hell yeah.
And like, if you're gonna put the time in, and like, dude, I've got the buddy heater. You know what I mean? What's it? Yeah. Janelle's got my buddy heater right now, but like, I've got access to it. You know what I mean? Like, if I were going to do it, but, and that's the thing that drives me nuts. The amount of gear it would take to do that, right? Like, I've got the cot. I could sleep above the water. You know what I mean? Like, that's important. There's a lot of the things I already have. My biggest thing is like, number one, knowing the spot. So you got to look at a map ahead of time, because you're at that point, you're planning. You're not going to go and like lug all this shit out there and drill a couple of holes and be like, all right, cool, we're going to set up here, or go to spot to spot to spot, lugging all that around. So you got to, it's a lot of work. But if I were going to do it, it would be like that.
when I drill the holes, I like, you know how you grab the sounder to get the depth and everything. I was expecting like because it's 12 inches of ice. It's a foot of ice.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
And so I'm expecting maybe 2 feet. That thing, like, it's going. And I'm just kind of like, huh. Like, it's going. It was like, I think like one of the spots I was at was probably like 10, 11 feet.
And you know
what I mean?
Those spots are great because, like, oftentimes you won't have depth charts on Navionics for a body of water that small. The data has never been shared.
100%. It will never be on there.
You get enough people on kayaks that side scan it though, and you'll see that stuff will start to show up.
Sure.
But that's wild.
What a fucking hidden gem this place was. And I got to give the credit to Dan. This is Dan's spot. He put me onto it. Like, I knew of it. I just never would have thought to fish it. Like, looking at it, you see a spot, you're like, oh, that's a juicy lake or that's a juicy pond right
This
now.
one doesn't speak like that,
there.
does it?
I looked at it. I was like, eh. You know what I mean?
Yep. You go by and you're just like,
Trash.
Yeah, exactly. 100. And you know what? That's probably what most people do, except for like the 3, 4, 5 houses that are on that place.
yeah,
You know what I mean?
they know the gem that they've got.
But it's like, I'm pretty sure everyone who lives at the few houses that are on there, they're all elderly. You know what I mean? So it's like, and there's no really access to get into it to do anything outside of that. But
it's
yeah, dude. So that was my fishy. I apologize to everyone that I said, like, I'm still not big into ice fishing.
Oh yeah.
But I did have a good time. I did enjoy it. I enjoyed it mostly because of the company. Yep. My kid getting into it. Like, I feel bad that he is so into it and I haven't been kind of exposing him to it as much as I should.
Yeah.
And I promise him, and I promise all of you out there, I am going to do better at that. And I'm going to ensure I get him out there. And that's it.
You know what we're going to say? We're going to be like, yeah, maybe next winter is going to be the thing. And next winter is going to be the most wild motherfucker we've had in a while. And it's going to be, we're going to be out. We'll be like on our boats in like the fucking Cape and, all over the place. It'll just be like, oh, we got open water in the rivers. We'll be like, we got open water. I mean, fuck it, right?
Fishing on Christmas in the boat.
Oh, God, that's... Yeah. I'm telling you, the one thing I really wanted to happen, granted, it still can because we've had snow in April. It's like you don't need ice on these bodies of water to get snow. But
April Fool's snowstorm we had a few years back, man.
Yeah, like that kind of shit fires fish up.
Oh, 100%.
It really 100%. Does. And I was out there when I was in Jersey. I was like, that's the drone shot I'm looking for. It's just the snow coming down, us casting, like just fucking. Oh, I can only imagine how cool that would be. And I'm like, I'm still chasing it in my mind. I'm like, if maybe this spring we'll be lucky enough and we'll get that. I'm like, I'm going to be flying that drone in it. We're gonna see what happens. Yep. But. Man, that's nuts. I love that, dude. Good for you. I'm glad you had a good time. I mean, that's ultimately that's what fishing is. Is just having fun and having a blast doing it. I'm floored that they pulled out that quality for largemouth through the ice. Like that is nuts. I just shared the picture of Dan holding his on the Jigs and Bigs story on Instagram and on Facebook. Yeah. So go check that out. Like that's a quality fish to pull through the ice. That is not that common. It is kind of funny. I was having a conversation with Janelle, and I guess like fishing was tough when she was up in Vermont. They caught some, but like I guess she was having she was catching better quality fish when she was actually in Jersey fishing on the ice. Okay, and I have a theory about that. I think that has to do with the fish down in Jersey don't see the ice nearly as often. It doesn't become a routine for them. So I feel like they might have been a little bit more fired up, those quality fish, than a fish that's like, oh yeah, it's this time of year, the ice is up, blah, 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 blah. We're going to avoid these things. Like they see ice anglers regularly. I'll bet you it's the same thing. Those rare occasions where it freezes in Texas?
So the tip of the week might kind of go into this a little
bit. Cool. That's perfect.
Yeah, we're getting into a tip of the week for ice fishing. So
I love
stay
that.
tuned for that, guys.
That's fucking awesome. I love
I'm an
that
ice
shit.
fisherman now.
Yeah. Overrated, underrated. Did you see that part in the fucking video? Fucking Nick. I saw it. I was like, overrated. Oh, hold on.
Overrated, underrated.
Oh my God. I don't know how many times that night I was like,
These two men exited a restaurant with 8 Long Island iced teas between them.
Oh my gosh,
the hangovers.
You
were brutal.
know, when we were at the Old Fields one of the nights,
Yep.
and he's like, "Fuck, what was it?" I don't remember what night it was. He's like, "Dude, yeah, respect. I got the hat." He's like, should I get a Long Island? I was like, oh my God. Dude. I was like, you want to have that kind of night? I was like, you know, I was like, you know what?
Nick that said that?
Nick.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Long
so
Island?
I was like, hold on. I was like, you want to have that kind of night? He's like, you know, he's so like calm, cool, and collected.
Oh,
he's
totally.
like,
But he does play hockey. Remember that. He plays hockey regularly. So like he's a little.
But he lives in Canada.
Fair.
He has to.
Yeah.
It's like, you know what I mean? But he's like, yeah. I was like, hold on. I was like, you know what? I have something for you to try. And I put him onto I had him have Susie make him up a bourbon mule.
Oh,
And
yeah.
he'd never had one before. And he's like, I really like this. So
Yeah,
that's
it's
what
good.
I think that it was the first night. I think that was I don't know. When we were drinking, everyone was drinking out of that bucket. Like,
That was
go check out
Friday.
the video,
Yep.
everyone. Go check out the video.
Definitely go check out the video. Also, in the video I put together, there was something that was just magical. That doesn't happen a whole lot. There was weird as this restaurant called the Rusty Bucket. And the Rusty Bucket was great. I don't remember what our server's name was. She was wonderful for just dealing with the insanity that was the 5 of us at the table. It was crazy. She was an absolute champ. With that said, I was like, I've been eating absolute trash constantly this week. I am going to eat like a meal, like a decent meal. So I ordered a steak.
Yeah.
And it was a New York strip. It was actually done really, really well. Had some sauteed mushrooms. It was delicious. But oddly, they said, oh, you can add, I forget what they called it, but basically it's a mystery beer in a brown paper bag. And you can add it for $1. Well, these are like $2.99 otherwise. And I had already decided I was going to play the game and see what the mystery beer was, you know? So it gets to the table and like the bag is nicely like crinkled the way it should be. Like it's like out of a cartoon, you know?
Yeah.
And, I was like, well, should I take a sip and without seeing it and see if I can guess what it is? And I've nailed it. The nuance of flavor that was there. Yeah, I was able to figure out it was a Miller High Life. Hell yeah, baby. I was like, oh, look at that.
I never would have known that.
Oh, no. Oh, wow. I've had a lot of trash beer in my life.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, I just have. And it was something. So I was like, it's all right. This will definitely, wash things down.
Yeah. You know what, like a great part of like that trip too is like Meg saying, I didn't realize that was
Todd said
you would never know he was there.
Oh yeah, no, he's
so like behind the scene. Yeah, he is. He's an apparition. We're gonna call him the apparition.
The apparition. Yes.
Nick's new nickname.
Gas cabin. Nick is officially an apparition after he blew himself up in Oneida or Nona or wherever the fuck we were fishing.
Oh. But just a testament of like how the show was and how the Columbus weekend was. Even Meg was like, I don't like we need to make sure no matter what, this is a priority that we do every single year. She's like, I just absolutely love hanging out with all of them. Like, this is because, she does
awesome, dude.
She works so friggin' much. She's like, she doesn't get out as much. She's like, I had such a good time. This is amazing. These people are just amazing. And
let's give ourselves a little bit of credit here. Not just you and I, Joe, but the Dark Horse team. Like, when we have two refined ladies that are in the operation right there, and they aren't running scared to the nearest Howard Johnson because of a bunch of fucking savages. Like, I'm telling you. It's the first thing I thought of. I was like, these poor girls. I'm like, Meg kind of knows what you're getting into, but I was like, Lauren's coming in sight unseen, and this could be a lot.
But especially we were basically in a frat house too.
100%. Like, quite literally a frat house.
With the train and dude, I didn't know until I watched your video. I didn't know about the fucking police thing. Until I watched the video.
You left. That's right. That was after.
Yeah, because I left that morning.
So as soon as I turned the corner, right, and I got behind those cruisers, I was like, I can title this police called. I can title this cops involved. Oh my God.
And I knew exactly where that was too. Because what's crazy is because when we were walking back to our cars, I think it was Saturday night, there was like a big group outside, and like it came to my mind. I was like, oh, this is screaming.
It's a sketchy fucking neighborhood.
Yeah. I was like, these are not the college kids. This is not a college house. This is an extracurricular activities house.
Ryan from Love the Cast and I, we had rode in to the Achigan get-together at Oldfields that night. And we parked, there's like, I think it's like an old used car dealership or maybe a mechanic or something like that.
Okay.
Like this old garage. And we parked up against these sketchy cars, and I'm just like, fuck it. We're just gonna. I don't know how long we're gonna be here. We'll just play it by ear. I'm gonna keep taking a peek out the window.
Columbus Police Department has better things to worry about than towing a car parked in an old parking lot.
It's true, but I was like, we're gonna go for it. I was like, so we go in and we come walking back out. I was like, is it there? Is it there? It's okay. It's there. Good. Man.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Oh, what do you say we bust out these headlines? Because
let's do it.
I love it.
So we've been talking a little bit about kind of how the weather's been and, that Arctic weather, that Arctic air. And Bobby, it's not just for us here up in New England. Mm-mm. So here's the title of this coming from Wired to Fish. Arctic blast kills 40,000 plus fish.
Oh,
and this took place in Louisiana.
Oh, I believe that.
So while the recent cold snap and snowfall in Louisiana was an interesting sight to see, it had an extremely detrimental effect on the state's saltwater fish. The Louisiana Department of Wildlife and Fisheries has estimated that some 40,000 fish succumbed to the brutal cold in 77 different fish kills. The trouble started on January 20th when record cold temperatures engulfed Louisiana. The freezing conditions lasted for several days with record snowfall as well as freezing rain, touching even the southernmost parts of the state. I mean, this shit went down to actually, we're going to pause for a second on this story. Mm-hmm. That's a big reason why we have an ice melt shortage in our area right now. They shipped a bunch of it down to Florida during that bullshit. Yeah. So
you're welcome, dicks.
Yeah, you're welcome. Now I'm going to fucking die on my driveway. But the saltwater fish species native to Louisiana, parts of it. Yeah, so the saltwater fish species that are typically native to Louisiana started to die off when water temperatures dipped below 40 degrees. Dude, that's like colder than like the Cape water. Yeah. And the effects worsen longer that temperature stays that low. All basins in the state's coastal waters saw water temperatures below 40 degrees. Some areas, particularly very shallow ones, dipped as low as 32. This resulted in the widespread fish kills. Since the travel advisories were lifted on January 24th, LDWF has investigated fish kills statewide, and the lead up to the fisheries meeting held on February 6th. The data from those observations indicates the mortality events were coast-wide, with the majority of the deaths occurring in shallow water. This is likely because the fish in those areas were not able to reach a relative safety of warmer, deeper waters, less affected by the Arctic blasts. Some shallow marsh ponds even saw ice from around the edges in this event.
Yep.
Through the fish kills, excuse me, though the fish kills were spread all over the Louisiana coastline, not all areas were affected to the same degrees. LDWF reports that the highest overall mortality of a variety of species have been observed in the coastal marshes between the Mississippi and the Atchafalaya rivers, exempt from striped mullet, which had high observed mortality east of the Mississippi River. The highest level of spotted sea trout and black drum mortalities have been observed in the Turabana Basin and the Timbalier Bay. The largest concentration of red drum and sheep's head mortalities were observed in the Barataria Basin, which is sure to hurt that fishery. So that's crazy. Like sea trout, whatever, like you see those, but like I know like the red drum or the sheep's head, those are like, I know those are like a very like, I see people like on YouTube and shit catching those down like Key West and stuff. But
they're way down there.
So here are the estimated fish kill totals. Striped mullet, 19,107. Spotted sea trout, 12,552. Red drum, 6,568. Sheep's head, 2,657. And black drum, 2,142.
Jesus Christ.
Such a freeze is very unusual for Louisiana, but not unprecedented. They point out that a freeze that occurred in late December 1989. During that event, water temperatures dipped below 32 for about 100 hours near Grand Isle. That resulted in ice forming on Lake Pontchartrain and other larger coastal water bodies. And that's it for that.
That's crazy. Those sea trout are apparently delicious. From what I understand,
I've heard. And
I have to wonder if this is going to be a good thing, though, long term.
Yeah, I don't. Yeah,
you know, I mean, obviously, like you're like, oh, that's so many fish that are dying, blah 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 blah. But like the way that can shake things up as far as the food chain goes, you know, you have to wonder if like there's going to be some of these larger fish that are really going to flourish because of this. And you're going to see some absolute giants.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. Quite possible.
Yeah.
And second quick little tidbit information I have is MLF wrapped up stage 2 yesterday down at the Harris chain of lakes in Florida, Central Florida there. And Bobby Lane came out with the win with 56 pounds, 5 ounces on the last day, which is almost 20 pounds more than second place, which was Mark Davis. So congrats to Bobby Lane. Yeah. Which is crazy because I
forward facing, didn't he?
No, he didn't.
No.
You're only allowed to. You're only. So I do. I actually kind of like. I kind of like. I mean, I'm kind of a proponent. Like, you know, we could talk forward facing sonar, but they did. MLF did it real well. The way they're doing it. If they're gonna have. Yeah, of course, of course, and like shit. I think it was Zek I was talking to. I think we're gonna see some. Names up on the leaderboards in the winning columns that we may not have seen in a while.
That's cool. It's definitely cool. That's a big difference between first and second too.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, that's significant. Shit, that's an entire bag that would win one up here.
Sure. Oh,
you know what I mean?
100%. Yeah. Yep.
Sheesh.
Yep. So that's those are our headlines for this week, Bobby.
Not bad, man. Not bad. A pretty good week. I think we're on that swing where we're slowly going to start to get fishier and fishier and fishier.
Yes, I can't wait.
The big thing for me is I am really, really paying attention right now through March to see what the Cape looks like. Because as soon as things open up on the Cape, I think you and I should just send it.
Oh, fuck yeah.
Just go and fucking send it. You know, make a day of it, leave at like 3 a.m., You know what I mean?
Yep.
Get out there, grab breakfast, a cup of coffee, fish until dark, grab dinner, and then just drive home.
Yeah.
Done deal.
I mean, dude, my first tourney's in like 5 weeks.
Isn't that crazy?
It's supposed to be March 30th. I mean, we'll see with the ice and everything. I think it'll be open by then. But March 30th. That's
nuts, dude. And it is. It's coming up. It's coming up quick. It's only 6 weeks.
It's coming
Jesus
quick.
Christ.
So I got to get my fucking boat down to John because I got some shit for him to do to it.
Yeah. Oh, speaking of John, we got to talk with John too because there is an event that he wants to try to put together to make it happen. And I got to check out the new shop. Last time I was down there, we saw the old shop. Everything was almost ready to go.
Yeah.
I got to check out this new shop. I'm very excited to check out what's new with JCS.
Has he? I haven't talked to. Has he officially opened that shop?
Yeah, it's open now.
Perfect.
Yeah, it is. It's open, and it sounds to me like, as far as efficiency goes, it's going to be really great because he's got separate space to do like electronics and stuff versus like fiberglass work. You know, or like any kind of welding or anything.
That's
like
great.
That.
Yeah, that's
very
perfect.
cool. Yeah, I think it's going to be awesome. It's going to be great. John Higgins goes back to the comments about parking in Columbus. He goes, shit, Broad and James Towing and Shamrock Towing will come and hook your vehicle up and bolt with zero fucks given, especially in the campus/short north area of campus of Columbus. That's part of the reason why I was like, no, I think this will work because it was private property. It wasn't on street. And I was camouflaged on. I've had my car towed before enough times to know. Like if it's private property, it's got to be the somebody at the business making the call.
Yeah.
And this place looked like it hadn't seen business in a long time.
It's funny because I come like I'm a small town boy. So it's like if your car's getting towed around here, it's because a cop came. And I keep forgetting that like tow companies have cities have the authority to fucking just go and take your shit.
Yeah.
Whereas like in small towns, it's like some small town cops like, oh, I don't like the way you're parked. Let me call the fucking local tow truck.
I got a good story about that. I was out one night after I was working. I was DJing an event. I think it was a wedding actually. Mm-hmm. And this is back before I had my own company and I was working for somebody else. Dropped off my gear and I would go over to a bar in downtown Springfield, Theodore's. Mm-hmm. If you ever want some really great barbecue, Theodore's. Right. Yeah, baby.
Theodore's.
In the back, my buddy worked there. We were in a band together at the time. In the back, there's this alley that connects, and I'm like, I had this fucking
I don't give a fuck about nothing
attitude, and I parked in the back because I knew there was only like an hour left before they closed. Dude, somebody fucking took my car. Fucking towed my car. I tracked it down. I went. What fucking really sucked is now this was in 99 or 2000 maybe.
Okay.
It was a $90 tow, right? Which today isn't shit. That's nothing.
Right.
Then I was like, what the fuck? I got $100 tip at the wedding that night, so it basically paid for my tow.
All went to the tow.
It basically went to the tow. I was like, you motherfuckers. So, yeah, not fun. Not fun at all. But John Higgins also chimes in. He goes, I'm anxious to get out next week. The Ohio River is blown out, and the blue cats are roaming the flooded tributaries. That's got to be pretty exciting when you can get some of these species that aren't normally there. And it's funny, John, that's exactly the situation that I'm excited about with the Connecticut River right here, is finally getting out to fish when those water levels are really high and all that submerged timber is actually submerged. I'm stoked for that. So stoked for that. And, you know, of course, getting the smallies in the main river, that could be very, very exciting. So what do we say we wrap this segment up here? We'll come back. We got just a tip for you that from all accounts is actually could be a first. It's kind of an ice fishing tip on Jigs and Bigs.
It is.
That's amazing. History's being made. And then we've got an amazing FTG that is just chef's kiss. It's so good. And it's going to ruffle feathers. Get ready. It involves spinnerbaits. God damn it. You don't want to miss out. We'll be back in a bit. All right, guys. More Jigs and Bigs coming up. Oh, and I should mention, we do have Jacob from Omega Boat Steps in the house in the beef seat this week. That's coming up in our third segment. Don't go too far. Much more Jigs and Bigs coming up right after this.
And perhaps play a little game called Just a Tip. Just for a second, just to see how it feels. Or ouch, ouch, you're on my hair.
Okay.
Haven't had that ouch on my hair situation in quite a while, as I've lost my hair years ago. So yeah, that's not a problem for me. Joe, what do we got for our tip this week?
Are you ready for what might possibly be the first ice fishing tip of the week on the Jigs and Bigs podcast?
I have about a finger and a half left of my 4 roses here. Hit me with some funny shit.
I'm done. So I had to do a little research, because before I do any type of fishing, I do a little research. So I wanted to do a little research into ice fishing. So here's a little tip for you guys. In the beginning to like the middle of the ice, what we'll call the ice fishing season, bigger fish or more fish tend to hang out in the more shallow areas, that like 5 feet and below. The reason is because that water is still very oxygenated, and so a lot of the bait fish will still gather up in there, and they will tend to hang out those shallows. As the winter goes on and the ice continues to be on the top of those lakes, that those shallow areas don't hold the oxygen anymore, or are not as oxygenated, and they kind of go in that oxygen is kind of now in that deeper water. So those bigger fish or more fish tend to go to that deeper water, anything kind of above like anything more than like 10 feet typically. So I would say we're kind of at the end of the ice fishing season for us. So if you're here and you're up north and we're getting towards that ice fishing, the end of that ice fishing season, start to head towards that. Look at your Navionics app, whatever you use, and start to look for that, anything over like that 10, 15 foot range. And that's where there's a good chance your bigger or more abundant amount of fish are going to be looking for bait fish.
Really? That's a fucking really good tip. No kidding. That's good to know, dude.
I did not know that.
Now, was this just something, it sounds like, was it something that you saw in practice when you were out, or like?
No, I did a little research before. It just I wasn't even like doing research. I just kind of like stumbled upon it, to be honest.
Those are the best tips.
I was like, yeah. And I was like, oh, interesting. So
that's good to know, dude. I love that.
Ice fishing tip on Jigs and Bigs.
Who'd have thought? Who
would have thunk it?
Today's show brought to you by Waxworms. I'm sorry. This is going to touch some nerves, specifically for like 2 people that are going to be something.
Fuck that guy. Fuck that guy. Fuck that guy.
Alrighty, guys. Well,
I'm excited.
I got a text from a good friend of the show. Buckle up. Here we go.
Hey, guys. Matt Thayer here. Klondike Custom Creations down here in Southern Rhode Island. And I'm calling in an FTG on the last episode from the Columbus Expo. It was during the last segment where Zachariah Jones had said something about spinnerbaits, and I do consider myself an aficionado on said topic. So he wanted to tell me how a single blade spinnerbait has more vibration than a dual bladed spinnerbait. And a dual bladed spinnerbait, depending on the blade configuration and spacing, creates more drag, being more vibration from the blades. A single blade creates more wire vibration. So there is more dramatic thump, say, out of a single Colorado spinnerbait versus a double willow spinnerbait. But a properly spaced, properly tuned, properly sized double Colorado spinnerbait absolutely puts off more vibration than a single Colorado. It's a lot faster, and there is actually more vibration and less thump, so to speak. It's all in how it feels when you're reeling that in. You're feeling a different blade on there. You're not feeling that single blade thumping. And this is coming from me, who prefers a single Colorado spinnerbait. But if Zach actually had, one of my spinnerbaits that I made that's tuned properly, maybe he would actually know this correct information. So anyways, I just wanted to give you guys a call for the FTG on old Dark Horse Zach over there. Yeah, so you want to talk spinnerbaits, bro? You let me know. I sit on literally a high council of bait makers on Instagram. And I have been dubbed the spinnerbait king of Rhode Island, and I'm working on New England. Working on it. Not there yet, but I'm working on it. All right, gentlemen. This is a tough topic for me. I'm fired up. This is up there with Bobby calling Frank Pepe's bullshit pizza good and Joe calling crackers shitty because they're aluminum.
I don't remember having that conversation.
No, you didn't. You didn't have that conversation with us. This was on the final segment when we were doing. I realized. So let me hold on. We'll use the Dream Machine. I'm editing the show. There are two men drinking
4 Long Island iced teas.
Right.
Each.
Okay.
next to me, and then there's Dave, and Dave is like looking at me like, "What are you doing? What are you doing, Bobby? How are you doing that? What's going on?" And Dave is just like absorbing the editing process. I'm like trying to get the edible to fucking just kick. I'm like, come on, I just want to go to bed. Let's get this done. And I was like, fuck, I totally forgot to record a final segment. Like, I'm gonna have to put something together. And that was the issue was that I was driving all day. So it's not like I was gonna be able to do it. And then like the last thing I was gonna want to do was edit and then post the show.
Sure.
So I was like, guys, why don't we just do like hey, what did we buy in Columbus segment? So we went through and I forget what the company was, but Nick had bought this spinnerbait from this company, and Zach was explaining. He was just like, "What's nice about these baits with a single blade is that when you have a double," and I think the way he worded it was like the two blades fight one another. And I when he said it, I was like, I'm too fucking tired and frustrated with technical bullshit to fucking try to get him to understand like the logic. So I just let it go. John Higgins even goes, I remembered it. He goes, I even questioned that. And I just let it go. I was like, all right, that's fine. But Matt is right. When you have a blade that is tuned the right way, the distance and the blade size comes into play. It's a huge, huge deal. And I thought it was very interesting when Matt pointed it out, because the first thing I thought was like, he's Mr. Single Blade.
Yeah.
Like most of the time, Single Colorado is like his go-to. And, you know, it's like, it was one of those things, you know, I look at like blade selection as vibration is only one characteristic of it. And it's when you're talking about, especially when you're talking about a willow blade, it's mainly flash. So having two will give you more flash. It's the goal isn't necessarily thump at that moment, you know. There is vibration there, but like you can see when you throw a spinnerbait. Like I've got a BizBait spinnerbait that I clean fucking house with this week. Dual blade, tandem blade, and it's just it swims perfectly, you know, until I'm reeling it too fast on a too high speed reel, and then it blows out a little bit to the side. But if your cadence or your retrieve is in the speed where that is designed to go, you're good to go. You know, but it was just one of those things. I was like, oh, he's all fired up. And we all know how the one and only Matt Thayer gets when he's fired up.
Cumberland Farms, 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 Cumberland Farms.
Matt gets very fired.
Wish I had some glow sticks right there.
Right? That would have been perfect. Oh, I love this. I love this. We had some questions in here regarding, what was it? Todd had said, I saw Joe's post. I didn't know Fish or Die made a goby. Going to need to pick up a bag of those. I actually have some, and I'll have them on hand. So if you don't come across them or anything like that, or I forget the color that I've got, but I do have some, and they are pretty freaking badass. Because they will be good at. They will be really good at St. Clair. And then Joe chimes in the chat. He goes, "You got to check them out. Great on a sled head. I've got plenty of those to go around. That's for sure. I loaded up." And then John chimes in. John Higgins, he goes, "A fish that doesn't have a visual and only feels a vibration may be triggered by the possibility of multiple prey items with the extra vibration and may zero in." I will say this when it comes to visibility. I think that Hank Bassgeek had put out a video that I think dispels a lot of what people think of when like how visibility really is a factor. Like when you're dealing with like ultra clear water, he was like soft baits are the move because the action is so natural and everything else. So like he goes, and I'm when I say hard baits for like dirty water, obviously jerk baits, crank baits, those types of baits fit in there. But he's like, your bladed jigs, your spinner baits, those are going to come into play as well. That I'm considering hard baits. So like, any kind of vibration, and I think that gets into bladed jigs too, blade size. There's a lot. So.
The way I've always kind of fished a spinnerbait versus, and Matt can yell at me next for this, I guess.
Yep.
But my thinking is always about, all right, cool. If I want some flash or whatever, and it's like, if there's like, obviously, if there's some chop, a lot of wind, it's like wind spinnerbait, so I'll throw them there. But if I'm looking for flash, I'll throw a spinnerbait. If I'm looking for vibration and to really get the fish to know and hear, that's when I'll throw a bladed jig.
Yep.
But I'm really excited for that brigade blade from Battle Baits. I don't know if you saw that thing, Bobby.
I did.
That's kind of like the best of both worlds. So I'm gonna have to get our hands on those.
When I first saw that, I was like, "Is that real? Is this like?" Because because people make their own tackle all the time. They rig stuff all kinds of crazy ways, and I was like, "Is this like legit?" And yeah, it is very
Flint
much
needs
legit.
A patent that, just in case. You know what I mean? Like, haven't seen it, haven't swam it. I've seen pictures of it swimming. I don't know how it feels. Obviously, I haven't got my hands on one, but that'd be
we'll see. We were talking in last week's episode about the Tackle Talk booth over at the Columbus Expo, and one of the things that and I thought this is awesome. One of the things that Andrew was doing over there was selling a bunch of old tackle, and he had this. I think it's called a screwball. I think it's by Uzuri, and it's like a spinnerbait, but it's got a small ball that hangs and just kind of like catches water. It's like. It's almost like a gem, how it's got all these different angles around it. It's not round and smooth. So it's just like, it just bounces all over the place. And the idea is, I think there's a couple other similar baits that are like that, where it's weighted and it's just so erratic, that it kind of does... accomplishes the same thing as like having a blade on like a bladed jig or something along those lines. I will say this. I have a couple of Matt spinner baits with the single Colorado blade. I have 2 or 3 of them, and they're all the same. They're all half ounce, and they're just one mega black Colorado blade. Black head, black skirt, nighttime fishing. You know what I mean?
Sure.
Great bait for when you need to create vibration. But it's a different vibration. It's a lot more uniform than it is a bladed jig. A bladed jig is straight chaos. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yep.
Especially those fucking shock blades I throw, man. Chaos.
They are.
It's freaking bananas. So yeah, that was an interesting one. I was having this conversation with Matt, and he's like, "Yeah, I want to leave this message." I go, "I just don't want it to be taken like out of context." And I was like, "Matt, you are speaking from a certain level of experience when it comes specifically to fishing spinnerbaits and making them and like knowing what's going on." I was like, so feel free. I was like, it's all good, and when you're several Long Island iced teas in, sometimes things that you mean to say don't come out the right way. You know what I mean? We are. It's like 10:30 at night on a Sunday, and I'm like, oh my God. The moment I was like, I have to record the third segment, it was like myself, Zek, and Dave were just like, okay, cool, we're going to produce this and we'll such and such and blah, blah, blah. I was like, guys, it's all good. There was a point where like it was supposed to be in the video. It's not in the video because the GoPro died. And there's a huge chunk of it missing. So I had my, those little mics, the Hollyland mics that I was like, I don't know if I really like these or not. They came in clutch because I put a couple of them in like some spots nearby and just let it record. And I was like, all right, we'll go ahead and do it. I'll capture this audio here as well. And it worked out. It worked out great. So what do we got? So that was FTG. We got a gear of the week to get through, which we haven't had in quite some time.
Okay, gearheads, it's time to talk tools. Jigs and Bigs gear of the week.
Yeah, so this gear of the week, Bobby, this isn't so much a specific piece of gear, more of like a category to help all of you guys that kind of do the social media, whether it's, TikTok, Instagram, whatever, especially if you're doing video clips. So I'm an iPhone guy. Bobby, you're an iPhone guy.
I'm an iPhone guy too.
So I'm kind of speaking more to iPhones. A lot of people they might know, but don't like take into consideration when they're making videos is you're always in that kind of that selfie mode, using that front camera that's, on the same side of the screen.
Yep.
And the video quality is not quite, there. That front facing camera is much better video quality, especially on the cinematic mode. So they actually make a product that I have recently purchased that actually puts a screen on the back of your phone so you can use that better camera and actually still see what's going on. Yeah, so it's just a vlog selfie monitor screen. You can get them on Amazon. I mean, there's tons of different ones on there. They range from like $45 to like $75, depending on the quality or whatever. But I have purchased one. I love it. My video quality on my videos that I use for my phone is far better than it was when I was using my front camera. So just a suggestion to everybody, if you want better video quality, use the front of your phone. If you want to see what is going on and still be able to see, make sure you're in the right, in the frame correctly, whatever.
Yep.
Go grab yourself one of these off Amazon. I think they're on the TikTok shop as well.
Yeah.
And I've been using it. I love it.
How does
just
it
a suggestion?
Connect?
So it connects so that screen itself has its own Wi-Fi. So
it doesn't even plug into your phone and use that battery.
Doesn't even plug in. It's completely wireless.
Okay.
There may be models out there that do plug in. The one that I chose and purchased does not plug in. What I do is I hook into the Wi-Fi and then I click the mirroring button in my settings.
Gotcha.
So that it mirrors it and you can see it that way.
No shit. Because I've been toying around with one of those. Like, for what it's worth, the entire video that I shot for that vlog for Columbus was done entirely on my iPhone. I didn't touch my GoPro. And maybe I should have for some stuff, but I'm telling you, man, there's so much you can do with the phone in your pocket.
Yep.
And I believe that the wireless ones will also work for Android as well.
Yeah, that's
it's a Wi-Fi.
That's
network,
my assumption. So. That's my assumption. Yeah, but I can only speak to iPhone, but it looks like it's for everything. So yeah, I'm glad you got one and you like it, because that's a much better endorsement than some influencer on Instagram telling me I should buy one, because I'm like, I don't know, do I really need it? Because I've been toying around with the idea. I love it. I like it. Glad I got it.
That's pretty slick. I like it. All right. Well, I mean, not too bad of a show so far. Guys, we're going to take a short break. When we get back, we got more Jigs and Bigs. We got Jacob Lane from Omega Boat Steps joining us in the beef seat. We're going to have a conversation about fishing. We're going to have a conversation about fabrication. We're going to have a conversation about being in the fishing industry and business. You're not going to want to miss out. We got much more Jigs and Bigs coming up right after this. Alrighty, guys. Bobby Roast Beef here. More Jigs and Bigs goodness going on. We have a great guest lined up this week in the beef seat. It's a good one right here. You guys have probably heard me talking about something called Omega Boat Step. Just on the last, I'd say probably since the end of summer as we got into fall. Well, I've got the one and only Jacob Lane with us. He's the owner of Omega Boat Step. And we've got him on to talk a little bit about his background as an angler, primarily as a fabricator, and starting a pretty amazing domestic business that makes a pretty fantastic product. So, Jacob, how you doing, buddy? How's things?
I'm doing pretty good. We take Fridays off, so for the most part. So that's why I schedule it on Friday.
That is the very best thing about owning your own business is the freedom to do something like that. That is fantastic, dude. So, let's give a little bit of background as far as the Jigs and Bigs relationship with Omega. This all started, I hit you up, I think it was sometime in like August or September.
Yeah, something like that. And
I was in the market. I just bought a boat, but this is my first boat. And I'm loving it. It's great. It's a 16 and a half foot angler from Lund. It's absolutely awesome. And I've been utilizing it as a way to get out and, add to my adventure fishing with family, with my dad, getting out there and just kind of making all sorts of stuff happen. And, my dad's getting a little older. I'm certainly not getting any younger. That's for sure. And, getting in and out of the boat, especially up here in the north where things get a little bit cool, you want to try to avoid getting wet at all. Yeah. And the ability to utilize those steps to get in and out of the boat at the ramp and do so as dry as possible is an absolute home run. So I was in the market, and I'd only ever heard of like one other company who had made these steps. So, of course, Facebook. I jumped onto the Lund owners group that I'm a member of, and started asking around what folks were using for boat steps, what they liked. And there were about 4 or 5 different names that popped up, and one of those was Omega. So I was like, I'm going to look into this, and I was absolutely blown away. So I shot Jacob an email. We started talking about it. He sent over, this was the Quadzilla that you sent over to me, right?
Yeah.
And I got to tell you guys, I've been talking about them since. I absolutely love them. I'm not easy on them. I'm running up and down, my 300-pound self, running up and down these steps when I'm getting ready for a big trip. I did some mods in the boat, so, we're talking about, I'm using them all the time. If I have to get into the boat, I'm not climbing over like an animal anymore. I'm walking up like a civilized human being. And they've been absolutely fantastic. And Jacob had hit me up probably or shortly after the holidays. I was checking in, and I was amazed. I'm like, this is exactly how this should work. And he's checking in to see what I thought, and I was absolutely amazed. So that's when we decided we were going to go ahead and move forward and offer listeners of the show a little bit of a discount with a promo code and everything. But Jacob, let's start at the beginning and talk about specifically with the business, how did we get to this point here? Like, what's your background as a fabricator, and how did boat steps of all things become the item that you started to focus on?
So my dad was a fabricator, and he had a shop, but I didn't want to weld. So I went to tech school, did the machining. I started machining, worked at a few shops, got into some engineering departments, and then I got tired of having to be there at a certain time, work for 10 hours, 12 hours, whatever it was.
Yep.
And I like to fish, but I thought about it for a year. What can I make that people can use and actually helps people? So, finally I was just starting to get a few sales with it, because I was building just custom steps. So people would take a picture of their boat. I would tell them where to measure, and then I'd send them an invoice. They would pay, and I would build some steps and ship it to them. And it was, I wasn't making much money because it was time consuming. For sure. The shipping was high because everything was custom. So it was just start building. And I mean, sometimes, these customers can't read a tape measure. So I had to guess on some of the stuff, but it worked out good. And then I was doing some industrial machining. So I had, a couple employees. So then COVID-19 come around. So I had some customers that was shutting the doors, laying people off. So we was getting slow. So I decided to just make the boat steps the number one priority. and design something that everybody could use. We could take it off of my Stratus and put it on somebody's Triton. They don't have to buy another set of boat steps. If they sell their boat, they can keep their steps, and so that saves them.
Oh, okay.
Sometimes $500.
Yeah.
Like your step, you can't put that on a bass boat. Like it's going to be too big.
Mm-hmm.
But we evolved into that because we realized there's not only bass boats out here. You know, I live in East Tennessee, so bass fishing is one thing.
Exactly.
You don't fish for anything else. So I didn't even have a Lund local, so I had to custom build a step and send it. I think I sent it to California, and
oh wow,
they fit, and that's what your steps are modeled off of. The Quadzilla, that's what they're modeled off of, is that custom step. So
no kidding.
We did that because I didn't want to lay my guys off because they had families. You know,
Oh, for sure.
We care about them. Just we don't want to lose money, but we don't want them to lose money and be, you know, not make their house payment or whatever. So that's kind of how it got started.
That's awesome, man. It's congrats to you. I mean, for being that proactive. There's a lot of business owners that did not necessarily take that road to, you know, look out for their employees. There are many that did, but I mean, you're amongst them, which is fantastic. You know, as far as like you mentioned, you know, would you say you had a Triton?
I've got a Stratus.
You've got a Stratus. That's what it was, a Stratus. Let's talk about your fishing background, man. I mean, you know, you say you're in East Tennessee.
Yep.
It's one of my favorite places in the country, dude.
Yeah.
Smallmouth fishing is obviously got to be a favorite of yours. I'm assuming.
You know, I don't target smallmouth because I'm not good at it. So whenever I go fishing, I get to go fishing on rare occasions now, since my busy time is, you know, spring and summer. Everybody needs their steps to get in their boats. So I get to go fishing during duck season. So it's cold and snowing. But the largemouth here is 4-1 on the smallmouth, I think, as far as catching them. You can't hardly get a bite for a smallmouth.
No kidding.
You can't keep the largemouth off of them.
Oh yeah, I believe it. Now, let's talk about your fishing background. How'd you get into fishing?
So my dad, he had a boat, but we never went. He was working, you know, all the time. So so I had a pond next to the house, and I'd walk to the pond and I would fish there, you know, just with whatever I could find, some worms or whatever. And it evolved, and I'd say I finally I did that all it till I could drive. And then I had a buddy that had a boat, and we take his dad had a boat. We take his dad's boat out. And then finally I bought a boat. Yep. And I was going every day. Like I would work just for gas money for the boat and hope the boat didn't break down. So
there you go.
That's what I did. And I sold it before I was going to sell it and buy another boat. So I sold it before I bought another boat, and I didn't have a boat for like 2 years. And I said, I'm never going to do that again. So I couldn't go fishing. I had to go to the pond again, and it's not the same. So
it's funny. We use this phrase around the show a lot. We talk about being the whole or the complete angler, and it's, you know, the being able to take fish from all different levels, you know, whether you dabble a little bit in fly fishing or you're fishing primarily from a boat or a kayak and then getting out on the bank when you need to. Dare I say, the fishing I find least interesting is ice fishing. You know, you factor all of these things in. Yeah, it's just not for me, man.
Yeah.
Especially the year that I buy a boat, the last thing I want to do is gather up a bunch of ice gear and go stand on a frozen lake. That's the last thing I want to do. Yeah. But I digress. Like, you know, we talk about the whole angler or the complete angler, and, you know, it can be tricky to navigate those methods or preferences. It can be a little bit of a challenge to get out there and kind of do it. So I totally know what you mean. Like when you're like, oh yeah, I had to go 2 years and I was just going back to the pond and pond hopping from spot to spot. Don't get me wrong, it's great, but it's a different animal from when you're like, I'm going to go and try that spot over there and, you know, motor right over, get it done, fish this other spot, or load it up on a trailer and then go right out there. Do you do any tournaments or anything like that? Or you're primarily out fun fishing?
There was 2 years. It was about 2 years ago. I went a full year that me and a buddy of mine, we didn't go fishing unless we was fishing for money.
Oh, so wow.
We wouldn't even go, you know, people practice fishing. We wouldn't even go do that. We would, hey, there's a Friday nighter, you want to go? And we would get off work and go and fish till 2 a.m. And if we caught something good, if we didn't, you know,
At least you were out.
We didn't, but and that kind of burned me out on the tournament fishing a little bit.
Oh, for sure.
You know,
man.
you got to get those 5. We had to get our 5 before it got dark. So tournament starts at 7 because after dark we couldn't catch them. So it starts at 7. By 8 o'clock, it's dark. We had an hour to get 5 fish, and we did good some nights, but most of the time it was just donating. But it's all fun, you know.
That's exactly it. It is. It's a good. Like I'm not big into tournament fishing whatsoever, but like we run some tournament trails. We do a slot limit tournament nationwide for bass, and then we do a multi-species tournament. That's a scavenger hunt. It's like a monthly online tournament, which is a ton of fun. Actually, this year we're going to try to elevate that and have some opens and then a championship, so we can actually have a structure to give away some like really cool prizes and stuff like that. So it'll be pretty cool. But I totally get it. Like, you know, it can be a great time. It's definitely it. You know, they have the phrase, "Let's make this interesting." It certainly makes things more interesting. But it can burn you out quick if you go through a rough patch or something. It is.
Yeah, I mean, whenever you come away with, you know, there was one tournament. It was a 3 fish limit, and it was on Chickamauga Lake, and we had 22 pounds and 3 fish, and it had only been taking like 11 pounds to win it. Oh, and I had found these fish actually fun fishing the day before, and it was like a 45-minute boat ride, and we caught those first 3 fish in the first 3 casts, and that was all we caught.
Oh my God.
We weighed in that night, and second place was like 9 pounds. So we had 20, 21, 22 pounds. So that was probably the funnest. And then it was all downhill from there. We couldn't do it again.
That is insane, man. Yeah, it can be like that. I actually have a bone to pick with Chickamauga. A couple years ago, a buddy and I, we had gone down to Chickamauga to fish with Caleb Bell, and we stayed over at Talk and Tackle, which I don't know if you've ever been in there, but oh my God, what an amazing tackle shop and spot for lodging, unbelievable. Yeah. So we had a great time. The experience was absolutely awesome, but we had driven down, and that day there were some pretty heavy thunderstorms that had come in, and I think it dropped like 1.5 inches, 2 inches of water in like less than an hour.
Yeah.
And it was just, the water was just chocolate milk. The day before our day with Caleb, his client caught an 8, which for us up here, an 8-pounder is huge. Yeah. You know, my PB up here is only 7 pounds. Mm-hmm. And I mean, but I say that up here to people, they're like, that's a huge fish. It is a huge fish, but it's not Chickamauga huge.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I'm like, you gotta be kidding me. And we caught them, but we just had to keep casting and throw lures right in their face in order to get them to bite. It was ridiculous. And we caught fish that were just laughable. Like we're talking 14-inch largemouth. Mm-hmm. I caught my first ever white bass. I was like, that's cool.
Yeah, it's full of them. That lake's full of them.
It's crazy, but yeah, it was unbelievable. I mean, super dirty water, but it's on my docket to revisit and get some justice, I guess, for it. You know.
Yeah, I live like 20 minutes from Chickamauga, and I don't even go. So I don't even like fishing the lake anymore because of the crowd. Because everybody's there.
Oh yeah.
So I
super
just go,
pressure.
Yeah, I got the lake above it's Watts Bar. That's where I go, and it's getting pressured. But I like fishing it more. The fish are not the size, but yeah, I can fish all day and see 10 boats.
That's
why I go.
It is nice. It is very nice, especially when you're looking for that escape. That's awesome, man. Now so this is a random question, just kind of crossed my mind, but have you put Omega boat steps on any elite pros or anybody's boats?
Yeah. So all right. Jacob Fouts runs our steps on the Elite Series, and then Wesley Strader on the MLF Tour. So he runs our steps. We just put his second set of steps on probably 2 weeks ago, and so he's running them. And he was the same as most people. He didn't need the steps. He thought he didn't need the steps, and he brought his dad with him, and he was like, "Well, this is the test," because And his dad loved him. And Wesley told me the other day, he was like, every time Dad gets in this boat, he talks about this is the best thing on this boat. So
hell yeah.
And you know how a pro's boat's rigged up. I mean, they got the best of the best. So to hear that makes me feel good.
Oh yeah, that's huge. It's so funny because every single time I've fished with my father when we've been out there, he's like, "This is the best thing you've done with this boat." He's like, the rod holders and stuff are great, and these
Yeah.
little things here and there, but he's like, this is a game changer. He's like, it's just unbelievable, especially like with efficiency. Like when we'll go out and fish, I'm so used to launching my boat by myself. And even now, really, it's made it even easier doing that. Like I've changed how I launch the boat now. And, it just makes things so much easier.
And talking about that, it was probably 2.5 years ago. I had a guy from Florida call me, and you could tell in his voice he was an older guy, and he was like, I'm looking for some steps. And I talked to him for like 10 minutes, try to figure out because I've got so many different models. I try to tell the customer this is probably what you're after, other than this one, because it'll work better for you.
Yep.
And come to find out, he said he was 98 years old, and
no kidding.
He was still fishing, and he was like, I can't get in my boat. So we ended up sending him a set of steps, and he called me back, the day after he got them, I guess. And he was talking about all the fish he caught, on Okeechobee Lake.
Yeah.
And, he was like, I couldn't have went fishing without it. And he was 98 then. That was 2.5 years ago. So I don't know, if he's still using them or not, but that was kind of the turning point that, people actually this is something they really need. And some people don't realize they need it.
Yeah, 100%. Like, especially like when you get into it and you're younger, you're just like, whatever, I'm just going to climb over. It's fine. But like at the same time, like, and I think you made a really good point when you were talking about like the pros boats. And let's be honest, like the pros boats, that's just the obvious look. But look at the way like a lot of us anglers, regardless of the type of boat you've got or, the species of fish that you're fishing, or even if you're fishing salt or freshwater, you're rigging the gunnels of that boat with so much stuff. But you've got to have a spot that's clear where you're able to get in. The boat steps minimize the amount of real estate that you have to leave open so you can flop your big ass gut over the rail. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's a weird way to look at it, but it's really true. In a way, you give yourself back more real estate for rigging, other types of stuff where you're like, oh, wow, I was always looking for a place where I could put my net. And now I've got this spot that works out, because real estate on a boat is way more critical than like real estate almost anywhere else.
Yeah.
Like
they're only so big, you can't, there's no building onto a boat.
It's true. You can only stretch it so much. And you're like, what you've got is what you've got. And if in the case of like having gear hanging loose, like that could go over, when it's gone, in some cases it's gone.
Yeah.
So in a way, making that investment on a good set of boat steps is really taking that next like step and allowing yourself to rig a little bit more creatively, and then also maybe save yourself from losing some stuff because you've got stuff Mickey Mouse all over the place.
Yeah.
It's wild. Now, there are a lot of, and I've heard from folks like in the marine, in the boat retail world, talking about how now a lot of the makers of the boats, the trailer designers, are creating like a lot of these steps built on automatically, but that doesn't mean that folks are buying them with that option right away.
Yeah.
The other thing for this, I'm sure, and I'm kind of curious about like if you've got any horror stories from this, but the used market for boats has got to be enormous for an aftermarket accessory like Omega Boat Steps. Have you seen any boats come through that somebody was like, oh yeah, I just bought my first boat and it was used and it was maybe something they shouldn't have, or like, what is the jankiest kind of boat you've put a set of steps on?
So there was a guy, I'm in East Tennessee.
I knew there was a guy.
There was a guy that called me, and he was dead serious. And he was like, what, I don't have, a lot, he was like, I think his exact words, I'm just a poor guy from Ohio. And I was like, okay, this is kind of weird. But he was like, but I want a set of steps for my boat. And he was like, do you have any that's like bent or like broke that I can get super cheap?
Yeah.
And I was like, not really.
We don't make them like that.
Yeah. Like if they're broke, we got a major problem. Those get scrapped or whatever.
Yeah.
Or if they're built wrong, they don't go to a customer. And he was like, well, I'm going to drive down there. He was like, what's the price on them? So I told him a price on a new set of steps. He was like, I'm going to drive down there. And he was like, I got this boat. He's like, just, I want steps on it, and I want to make sure I like them first. I was like, okay. So he makes the drive down. It's like 5 hours, and this is the first time anybody's ever done this. So I'm like, this guy's driving 5 hours to put a set of steps on his boat. Like, it's kind of weird.
Yeah.
I thought at the time it was kind of weird. And he pulls in, and it's this like a sea nymph maybe, but it's like crazy old. And the trailer is like crazy old, but it's made out of super small tubing, like maybe 2-inch, 1.75 at the most. And I showed him the set of steps, and I was like, I don't think you should really use these. I think you need to at least change your trailer because your trailer is not going to support it. And so he was like, well, I'll buy them. So he bought them, and he actually put them on in the parking lot. Like we didn't put them on. So he put them on the parking lot. And so the guy's, he's a bigger guy just like I am. And it's a 3-step model. It's our DB model. So whenever you're at the top step, you're 30 inches above your trailer. So that's how tall it is. So almost 3 foot. And then you're a foot off the ground, maybe from the trailer. So now you're at 4 foot, roughly 4 foot off the ground. He got to the second step, and he was he was like, this is too big. Like, I'm afraid of heights. And so he was like, I'll have to practice whenever like nobody's watching me. And he got in his truck and left. And that was the craziest thing.
That is crazy.
Of course, we discounted him for him because he drove so far. And, the guy was, I don't know, he was just an off the wall guy. He was kind of different. So we discounted him for him because we didn't have to ship him and all this other stuff. He was like, I don't even want a handle. And I'm like, you got to have a handle because I've tried to use him without a handle. And you got to have it. So I gave him the handle. But that was kind of the craziest experience with these steps that I've had. Either that or just people online that don't know anything about business. They'll just comment like way too high, way too expensive. And it's like, it looks like you got a 2020 Ranger. I don't know how a $300 set of steps is too expensive. I don't get it, but it costs what it costs. It's manufacturing is not cheap, especially if you're doing it all yourself. We don't outsource anything. So we do it all.
Absolutely. And I think you nailed it. Like, it costs what it costs. It's amazing how somebody will, they'll say like, they'll spend all this money on like a sports car. And then they're like, you mean to tell me it's going to cost me $1,200 to put these tires on? Or like, my brakes are shit on my, towing vehicle. And it's just people just don't think. I mean, I'm guilty of it myself. I've tried to cut corners in the past. I get it. Yeah. But like, eventually you get to a certain point where you're like, wait a minute, hold on just a second. Yeah, I got to actually think about this in like rational terms. But that is why I knew you had a story. I was like, there's got to be something. Somebody showed up with a boat that was like, is this thing going to float? I don't think you have to worry about walking up to it.
Yeah, it was a rough boat. Like, maybe he was going to plan on restoring it. I don't know, but it was rough.
Yep. Now, with my trailer, I have a bunk style trailer with the big, carpeted bunks on either side. So loading my boat is a breeze. And I've loaded other boats on other types of trailers, and I definitely see there being a challenge. Have you had anybody call up and say like, I can't load my boat properly? Because that was one thing I was a little bit concerned with. I was like, how is this going to change how I load up like on a windy day or something? And I mean, I've been out when it has been blowing 22 miles an hour, and I've had no problem. But a lot of that I kind of attribute to the trailer. Yeah. Do you have any tips for anybody as far as like things to keep in mind?
I would say practice. I mean, go put your boat in the water, go to the lake. I mean, I don't have any trouble, even in some heavy storms. I've loaded it, no trouble. But most of the time, I would say 99% of the time, the steps are so far away from the boat.
They are.
Whenever you're loading, as long as you've got your trailer at the right depth in the water, you really have to do some major messing up to hit the steps.
Oh yeah.
And speaking of that, there is one other story. I did have a guy call me. He had a set of steps for 3 years, and he was like, I need a new handle. And I was like, okay, what's the deal with the handle? I mean, the steps are 3 years old. Look his order up. They're 3 years old, and we don't offer a lifetime warranty. I mean, I guess we kind of do because you'll figure that out here in a second. But he was like, well, we ran the steps over. And I was like, what do you mean ran the steps over? And he was like, well, my wife was loading the boat and she never let off the gas. And she actually loaded the boat over the tailgate of the truck. So she ran she ran over the steps, and
oh my God,
and it bent the handle. So it didn't break it, but it did bend the handle. And he was like, the steps are fine. They're they're a little scratched up, but the handle's bent. So we just sent him a new handle, because he already had a rough day. I mean, he pretty much totaled his truck. So we sent him a new handle. But that's the only issue I've ever heard of somebody hitting the steps loading the boat, and that was operator error. I mean, his wife gunned it.
Yeah, for sure.
Into the back of the truck. So.
And, it's interesting, too. Like, I had just recently, I have taken the boat out to southern Jersey on a quest for open water. Totally failed mission. It didn't work out.
The video.
Yeah. Oh, you did? All right.
Yeah.
Well, good. Yeah. You understand. So I was on, what was I? I was driving along. I was in Connecticut on one of the parkways, I think the Merritt Parkway. And I'm driving along, and I was like, uh-oh, how high does that handle go? I'm like, because of the the bridges and everything. I'm like, is this going to be? And it's not that high. It was just in my mind. It was like it's something I got to keep in mind of. But there's a reason why I thought about this. So, and I can't believe I'm admitting this to you, Jacob, but Bobby Roast Beef is a bit of a dumbass at times. So on my driveway, right, I parked the boat up in my backyard, and I backed the boat into my driveway. It's actually, I'm pretty impressed with the piece of driving I have to do as far as maneuvering from the street into this tiny little driveway, backing the boat in. I'm pretty impressed with myself. But as I'm coming up the driveway, on the side of the boat where the steps are, there is a tree that comes up. It's not very tall, but it goes over the driveway. Like it's almost like a natural canopy. We just trim it off because it's nice to keep the cars shaded in the heat, So we leave it. And it's just far enough to the right where as I'm backing it in, I hear something like, those door stops that you see in some houses that are a spring with a little rubber cap at the end?
Yeah, I got them in my house, every door. Yep.
And if you flick them, they go kind of like boing, like that. Yeah. So I heard something that wasn't exactly like that, but was kind of close. And I looked back, and my handle was just like vibrating, like. So I get out, and I'm like, oh, my God, you fat dumbass. What are you doing? So I go, and I'm looking at this, and I'm in the backyard, and my wife's like, what are you doing? I was like, I think I almost took the tree out. I think I almost uprooted the tree. She's like, what the hell are you talking about? So I go, and the steps are still rock solid. I was like, here's the real test. I climb up them. They don't move at all.
Yeah.
So, I mean, he must have hit this thing pretty hard to bend that handle is the point that I'm trying to make.
Yeah. His wife did some damage, that's for sure.
Yeah. Oh,
I never got any pictures of it, but we just seen the handle and because try to make his day a little bit better.
Oh yeah, absolutely. That's awful. I can only freaking imagine. But yeah, ever since then I was like, okay, idiot, let's be really, really cognizant of the height of everything going around. And that's how you learn. You make a mistake, and that's how you learn. And I think you nailed it when you were like, practice, when it comes to loading your boat and then launching your boat using everything. Get out there. And it's like, I don't know what happens at boat launches. Sometimes we just lose our minds. And we're like, maybe it's the fishing for those of us that are out there to fish. Or maybe it's just the going out and, drinking on the boat with our friends or something. But we're so ashamed to take a minute and say, hey, the boat launch isn't busy right now. I'm going to reload this boat 3 or 4 times to figure it out, to get that practice together. And then at the end of the day, if you did learn a little bit better or how to streamline your process, now you're that much better off for future stuff. So take the time if you can.
Yeah, because we
practice
around here. We call them the 2-timers. They go to the lake 2 times a year. So they go with the first day of spring and then the last day of summer.
I was going to say it's usually Memorial Day and Labor Day, and that's it.
It's an hour for one person to load their boat, and it's like we got to get out of here by 10:30, or we're going to be stuck on the lake because we won't be able to get out.
Oh, 100%. Like, you want to be out before. The way I look at it, it's like if you can on those days specifically, or any holiday, 4th of July, you name it. If you can be off the water before lunch, home run. You're good.
Yeah, you have to.
Yep. After that, it's just a comedy of errors from everybody involved. It's just absolutely freaking bananas, man. This is fantastic. So let's get into. There's a couple of questions. So when you're out fishing, like, what are your confidence presentations? What type of an angler are you primarily?
So used to, it was I could go to the lake with one rod and it had a jig on it,
Oh yeah.
We're just pitching a jig down the bank. And but with all the technology out, I wanted to learn it. So I've got live scope on the boat and everything. So I've spent a year or two trying to figure that out. And I figured out that I suck at it. And I just sit out there and waste time trying to live scope. I'll be live scoping like this has got to be a bass and it'll be a catfish.
Oh yeah.
And I'll do it again. And I don't want to catch a catfish. So I turn it off and just pick up a jig or, a crankbait and go down the bank. That's really my way to do it if I want to catch fish and not have to worry about, is this fish ever going to bite? I've been trying for 20 minutes. So, but whenever they do bite on live scope, it's, I think, 10 times more fun than catching them on a jig. So I'm kind of 50-50 on what I like to do.
Yeah, it is kind of, it's a different sense of pride. When you're when you spot something and you're just like, we're gonna try and catch him. I forget who I was with. I might have been with Ryan Bogley. He's an angler from up here. He does a lot of tournaments and stuff. And we were out fishing this one day, and same thing. He was just like, yeah, there's a big school of something right out here. Let's try and see what we can do. And this last year, I got really into like what they call bait finesse fishing. Mm-hmm. So it's bait casting gear, but it's designed for ultralight presentations. So I was throwing like super downsized swim baits and things like that. And for multi-species, it's great. So he would see a school of like, who knows what. And I'd pull up like a tank bluegill or a trout or a smallie or something, it was really cool. And then sometimes you would find just something that was of size and you're like, now we got to play that game. What is this going to bite? What's the right presentation? What's the right cadence? And you're right. When that fish finally does commit, it is a totally separate sense of pride.
Yeah. Yeah. I think it's more fun. I mean, some people hate it. They think live scope's, cheating or whatever, but live scope's wasted a lot of my time in tournaments because I'm like, oh, there's fish here. And I just keep fishing and I show up to weigh in with 1 15-incher because I could catch them.
Yeah, I mean it happens for sure. It's tournaments are so tricky. Like I go and I just try to treat it like a party, like a big social event. I'm like, because at the end of the day, that's what it is. There's always going to be that like one old timer at every tournament that's the one body of water that they fish, and you just won't beat them because they know the place inside and out.
Yeah, and they usually catch them like at the boat ramp.
Yeah, a lot of times they do. Or in the spot that I'm thinking of, this one guy, he's got a jet boat and he's able to go in spots further upriver than most other boats with an outboard are able to. So he's up in like New Hampshire catching just absolute brutes and then brings them back down. And we're like, okay, here's our money.
Yeah.
It's freaking nuts, man. Thing sounds like a freaking Camaro when he starts it up too. It's like, oh my God. Unfreaking believable. But that's pretty badass. So we'll go ahead and I've got one final question to kind of go over, and then we'll have you promote yourself a little bit. But this is sort of a two-parter. I'm looking for two things from you. The first one being a story that, like, the fishing story you're most proud of, like the one where if you're at a wedding or something like that and somebody says, oh yeah, Jacob, I heard you do a little bit of fishing, or they comment on your boat, you're going to share that first story primarily. And then the other one is like the biggest epic fail that happened, where just it all went, where the wife pulled the boat on the onto the tailgate or whatever, stuff like that.
Yeah. So the best fishing story is whenever me and a buddy of mine fished that tournament, we had 21 or 22 pounds and 3 fish and 3 casts, and it was a 45-minute boat ride one way to get there, and they cut the water off. So once they cut the water off on the Tennessee River, it gets tough out deep, and that's how we was catching them. And so we just went back to the boat ramp and kept the fish alive until I think it was like 11 o'clock was weigh in, and that's the number one that if somebody asked, because that's the biggest weight we ever had, and this 3 fish with over 20 pounds is
that's great.
It's a pretty good bag. So that one's the number one. And the fail happened 2 weeks ago. So
that's recent. Okay.
Yeah. So I haven't been on the water in like 8 months because I've just been working. just trying to grow this business. And so I get the boat cleaned up. I get all the batteries charged, and everything's going perfect for a change. I get to the lake.
Yep.
I unload the boat, and I'm using the trolling motor to get to the dock, and I've got an Ultrex, so I can just spot lock it.
Oh yeah.
So I hit the wrong button on the trolling motor, and I hit the dock with the boat. Oh. And so I fall in the water, and it's like it's like 32 degrees. So I fall in the water. I'm in shock. It's crazy cold.
Oh yeah.
I couldn't get up on the bank or on the boat because I was wearing so much clothes. Like as soon as you get out of the water, you're an extra 60 pounds. So I wasn't trying to pull myself on the boat. So I had to swim to the bank and then go get the boat, load it back up on the trailer. And then I just had to sit in the truck and warm up. Like I took all my clothes off. So I'm just sitting in the truck pretty much naked with the heat on. So that ruined the whole fishing trip. I had to drive home. I just drove home, sat on the couch, watched TV. I was like, I'm not going back today. So that's the number one fail because everything was going perfect until, I fell off the boat. So, 30-degree weather.
There was a video that Bass Geek had put out. He's in your area. And I was watching this. I couldn't believe he left this in. I could not believe he left this in, but he was fishing with a buddy of his. And I don't know if he like tripped or something on the boat, but he went right in. Yeah. And he's a big guy like I am. And he managed to get back on the boat, but I think he did so because he was smart and had a ladder in the back.
Yeah, mine don't. I got no ladder.
Oh man, I was like, that is smart right there. Holy shit. And he left it in the video. I got to credit that because you got to show people when it goes wrong so that they know what they're dealing with, what could potentially happen out there. That's wild, man. That is just brutal. Cause 32 degree. What was the air temp?
It was somewhere in the low 30s. It was the air temperature. So I didn't even get to check the water temp because I didn't even turn my graphs on yet. So I'd been at the boat ramp for like 8 minutes. And I was already soaking wet.
That's no good, man. And there's a physiological thing that happens when you fall into cold water like that. Yeah. Where you can't stop yourself from going like, you know.
I did that for like 6 or 7 minutes straight. Couldn't stop.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
So it was kind of crazy.
Good thing you made it out of there, dude. That could have been really, really bad. And it's a good thing you were at least right there at the launch. Yeah. Man, that could have been bad otherwise, but wow, that is brutal. That is absolutely brutal. Well, Jacob, this was absolutely fantastic, dude. I'm so glad we got to do this. Why don't you go ahead and promote yourself a little bit, let folks know where they can, find Omega Boat Steps if they're interested, some things they might want to look at beforehand. And then, if they want to reach out and, ask you any further questions or anything, where they can do that as well. And then we'll go ahead and we'll let the Jigs and Bigs listeners know their promo code.
Okay. So the biggest thing that probably I want to let everybody know is we're a 100% USA company. So everything gets made right, in East Tennessee. We do it all. I'm the one welding your step. So I take a lot of pride in the business we've built. So you're not going to get something that's junk or whatever. And the problem right now is China has come on the scene and essentially copied everything we're doing to the T. So they're actually selling our steps. They're not our steps, but it's a remake. It's a copy, and they're dangerous because I get people calling me and they're like, "Hey, this step broke," and I'm like, "Okay, what's your order number?" And they can't give me an order number. They finally find their order number and they give it to me. And I say, well, you didn't order from us. Send me a picture of the packaging or whatever. And they're ordering these steps on Amazon and they're made in China and the steps are breaking on people. They're breaking going down the interstate.
Oh, wow.
So you're talking about some really liability issues for the owner of that step. If it breaks off of your trailer going down the interstate and somebody runs it over and they total their car, the owner of that step's liable. It's not.
Oh yeah.
It's not the person that wrecked. So I would buy from a company that's 100% made in USA. There's a few of us, and I'm one of them. So I would definitely look into the reviews. We sell on our website. We sell on Amazon. If you're going to buy on Amazon, just make sure that it says ships sold from and ships from Omega Boat Step. It'll be under the buy box. That's how you're getting the legit item. And it'll be safe. And, we take care of our customers. So if there's any kind of issue, we always take care of it. And you can see that in the reviews on our website. If you go and just look through the reviews, and they'll say, I had this slight issue. They took care of it instantly, no charge, whatever. So that's where you can find them at. OmegaBoatStep.com is the number one. If you buy from there, you're going to get an extreme amount of service that you're probably not used to buying from, when you buy from a company. So that's what I would tell them. OmegaBoatStep.com. We're on social media, but I'm not a social media guy. I do the best I can, but I'm not good at it. So I'm a welder. So, but yeah, that's pretty much it. Don't buy Chinese junk. That's the number one thing. Everything's from China. And I'm not saying everything from China is junk, but what I am saying is if you're going to trust being 3 foot up in the air, on your steps, do you really trust in a company that is overseas, has no quality control, and doesn't care? And the only thing they care about is your money, because they got pennies in making these things. So that's pretty much it.
No, I think you nailed it, man. And so Jacob has been gracious enough to hook up Jigs and Bigs listeners with a little bit of a discount if you're looking to rig your trailer with some boat steps to make your fishing adventures that much better. We've got a 10% off your entire order, and the minimum purchase for that is $250, which for the most part I was looking at the website, the vast majority of the step packages that are there, you're going to hit that mark. So you can save 10% off your order. Use the code Jigs and Bigs, all one word. And of course, if you guys want to just check the description of the podcast, there is a link that's in there as well. You just go ahead and click that. It'll auto-populate and everything. You'll be good to go. But that is awesome. Jacob, thanks so much for coming on the show, being part of it. We think it's amazing that there are folks that are out there that are domestically creating products like this and are able to, because it is a challenge these days to be able to do so and be able to do so affordably. So applause to you, man. We really appreciate that.
I appreciate you and every customer that we get. The reason that we do it obviously is to make a living, but the next thing is we're helping people that really they can't go to the lake without us. It's just that simple. They tell me straight up on the phone, I can't even get in my boat. And then they get the steps, they put them on, and then they call me again, and it's a totally different person calling you because they're so excited because now they can go fishing by themselves. They don't need, a buddy to help them get in the boat or whatever. So
absolutely.
It's a need that people don't know they need. So
it's true. And almost everybody at one point or another is going to get to a point where they're going to want to have this on their boat to at least make their experience getting out there a little bit easier and allow them, like you said, to be able to go out on their own, utilize their boat. It's a big investment, regardless of whatever if you're buying a used boat for like $5,000 or you're buying like what Joe's got, a $200,000 Icon, something like that. You want to be able to, get the most out of your investment as you can. And something like a quality set of boat steps will absolutely help you get there. So that is absolutely freaking awesome, dude. I do want to say there was one of our listeners, a longtime listeners, Tim Jakes. He is, he's got, I think he's got a Ranger. Yeah, I think he's got a Ranger. Nice setup. As soon as I mentioned Omega and I had done the installation, he went out and bought a set and loves them. And he's, loves them.
Yeah, I think I remember, it wasn't long after you had first said, hey, I got these steps.
Yeah.
There was a guy that called me and was like, I was listening to, Bobby Roast Beef and he's got them and he's like, I want a set. So, that it worked out good. And I remember that guy that called. I don't remember if that was his name, but there was at least one guy that told me, hey,
that's awesome. That's awesome.
Set. So
that's what we're all about. Just proof and we're trying to do the good work, and that's ultimately what we love to hear is when there's that feedback of like, oh yeah, I heard about these from Jigs and Bigs. So that is awesome. Jacob, I appreciate you, buddy. Thanks so much. I'm sure we're going to be in touch in the future. Like I said, I bought my first boat. It's probably going to be more.
Speaking of being in touch, I think I seen where you was going to go at the Columbus fishing show, right? Well, me and my wife will be there. So I'll probably come through. We're not selling. We're just going to go. Yeah. Because we're looking for other avenues because we do the East Tennessee Fishing Show in Knoxville. We've done that once. So we're just looking for more shows. So I'll probably swing by I think the Dark Horse Tackle. Is that where you're going to be at?
Exactly. Yeah, and it's a huge booth this year too, the Dark Horse booth. So I'll be around there. I'm going to be there the entire weekend. So yeah, come by and say hi, man. We'll get a picture.
All right, man.
Awesome, dude. All right, well, do you take care. Jigs and Bigs listeners, we'll be back with much more Jigs and Bigs goodness right after this. Well, all right there, ladies and gentlemen. Here we are, Jigs and friggin' Bigs. Wrapping up this week's show. It was a fantastic show. I got to tell you, Joe, not that I'm surprised. I had a feeling that if either one of us got out on the ice, we were probably going to have a great time. That doesn't surprise me at all. I am amazed
I agree.
at the quality of fish that these dudes in your group were able to pull through the ice. I, again, am just absolutely floored with that. Yep. Unbelievable. With that said, I want to tell you guys that we have open tournaments all over Fishing Chaos right now that you could go right now and register for. And we're talking about not only the multi-species scavenger hunt series, which is open right now for April. You can go ahead and register for that sucker. And, you'll enjoy it and you'll love it. It's a low barrier of entry to go ahead and get in there. But we also have the April 2025, the slot limit tournament. That is happening on April 19th for all of you bass heads out there that are looking to catch all of them. And as a reminder, how does the slot limit tournament open, or how does the slot limit tournament work? It's basically a catch-em-all style tournament. Catch as many fish as you possibly can within the 12 to 17 inch slot. That levels the playing field for a lot of anglers across the entire country. So go out, have a blast, catch some fish, and have yourselves a good time. It's well worth it. It's a single day, and it's nationwide, anywhere. And remember, I do have to go back in the rules. This is open to Canada and Mexico as well, as is the scavenger hunt tournament, open to Canada and Mexico as well. Because why? Because we know that we've got listeners that fish in both areas, and we want to take care of them. The other one to tell you guys about is the Open, the multi-species scavenger hunt Open. That is, you're able to register. That's taking place in May. It kicks off on May the 12th, and it runs until the 18th. So it's a 1 week long, 7-day challenge to go out and catch as many species as you can. Registration is open right now. All of these are available on Fishing Chaos. I'm going to leave links in the description of this podcast so you guys can go ahead and check it out. Trust me, you're not going to want to miss it. It is just going to be awesome. I think as far as, for me, that's about all I got. Joe, do you have anything you want to wrap up before we call it quits? Anything you want to squeeze in for info?
No, man, that's it. And like Bobby mentioned, go check out the YouTube videos from the Columbus Fishing Expo shenanigans, both on the Jigs and Bigs and the American Vet Fishing YouTube channel. And I think between the two of us, especially, you'll see pretty much everything.
Yeah, we covered a lot of good stuff on there. So definitely go ahead, check it out, and we will see you guys in 7 days. More Jigs and Bigs goodness. You got everything you possibly want with this podcast. What more could we give you guys? We engage you with the tournament series. We give you some entertaining banter to get you through the week. We give you enough content so that way we don't have to release stuff constantly. We make one drop. It gives you a good solid week's worth of content to be able to enjoy. Occasionally, we're even able to muster the good experience and forethought to give you a tip or two. And we give you some feedback about gear along the way. And we give you a platform to air your grievances about single or double blade spinnerbaits. My goodness. I don't know what else you can ask for, folks. Go ahead and give us a rating and review over at Apple Podcasts. Give us a star rating over on Spotify, too. And for those of you that don't know, Joe, I think it was last year when we did our live show at Oldfields. Last year, we only had like 54 ratings on Spotify, and we had like a 4.9 rating. we're at what, 78 or 79, and we're still at 4 stars. At 4.9 stars.
Perfect.
Still at 4.9 stars. I mean, if that doesn't scream excellence to you, I don't know what to tell you. Guys, have yourselves a great week. We appreciate you. You're absolutely all out wonderful and amazing. Go ahead and catch yourself some fish if you have the ability to do so. Make sure to keep tagging us in your photos because we want to live vicariously through you and also show you a little bit of love in the comments. Share your stuff on our timelines and let some folks know that the Jigs and Bigs listeners can actually catch them when push comes to shove. Big shout out and congrats to Dan Griffin again on an absolute tank through the ice. And, go and get him, guys. We'll see you when we see you. Have a good one. And like we always say,
Tits and ass, smoke some grass.